이루어지는 마법인 거야. 분명한 소리 들려 여기서 저기서 날 찾으며 달빛이 날 비춰와 시작해야 let's go. 어둡고 흘러는 우주 따뜻한 눈으로 감싸나 순간 신비롭게 녹아내릴 거야. 좀 더 기다려 I'll be there. 쓰러지지 마 끝까지 일어나야 해. 어딜 가든지 극복해. 힘은 너에게 있는 걸. 소리 높여 노래를 불러. 작은 걱정 따윈 던지고 최선을 다해 작품을 접어. 나도 믿어 날 때까지 아름다운 꿈을 밝혀봐. 우리에게 달려서 그 세계 운명.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to Meet the Rivals. Okay, today our first guest is a legend in the scene. We got Donald Vanguard from the Chiefs representing in Pacific OCE. How you doing, Donald?
Hey, I'm good, Lager. How are you, bro?
Good, thanks, too, brother. All right, let's get into it. You know, I want to know, the people want to know, how did you start your esports journey and how did you end up on the Chiefs?
Look, my esports journey's been nearly a decade long, mate. Obviously had like modest success, nothing crazy. I've played, I started with just some, friendly, like I used to play split screen, FPS competitive stuff with my mates, and then went into a hero shooter, played that one for too long, and then played a MOBA, and then back to that hero shooter, and now we're here.
Respect. We love a game out here, but outside of gaming, outside of competing, what's your profession?
So I work in public health. I'm a manager at a private cardiology practice. So it's pretty full on as well. Trying to juggle that with scrims is painful. My day is kind of work 8 hours, go to the gym, scrim, go to bed. So I don't know how I've successfully maintained a relationship this long, but it's full on.
Now I'm gonna hit you with some quick fire questions, okay? Straight away off the bat. What's your favorite MCU movie or show?
So yeah, I'm watching the Daredevil series at the moment, but I think my favorite overall has got to be the second Deadpool movie. So I watched the first and second one, 2 days, and then 1 day before Deadpool and Wolverine came out. So it's kind of a trilogy in 3 days, and I enjoyed that a lot actually. Yeah.
Now in Marvel Rivals, what's your favorite hero to play? Straight away.
Yeah, I mean Magneto's kind of like, I don't know. If you look at my profile, obviously scrim time isn't recorded. So I'm not a one trick, but it's pretty bad. It looks like I am, yeah.
Okay, well, we call him LeBron for a reason, everybody. Come on now. Now, what's your least favorite hero to play against?
I don't know. Long-time LeBron fans will know that I hated Wolverine and the first MRI, and it's still pretty irritating. The dinosaur existing now sort of remedied that a little bit. It's probably still Wolverine, or maybe I don't know, half the strategist roster.
Which hero do you wish you were good at?
There's a couple of heroes I haven't had a chance to play recently that I used to. So at the moment, my Hulk and Cap have fallen off a bit, and people be like, "Yo, is that the Hulk guy?" That doesn't happen anymore. And it's just because whether it's because the meta changed or I don't know, the game caught up to me. Yeah, I'd probably want to say Cap and Hulk.
What Marvel character would you like to see added to Marvel Rivals?
Okay, so there's a couple mutants that I'm a big fan of, but I want them to be vanguards, so it makes it hard to pick somebody. I prefer ranged vanguards, obviously, and ones that can headshot are cool too. So, actually, forget about that. No, I want Big Bertha from the Great Lakes Avengers. Yeah, I want to play Big Bertha. Yeah.
That's a good pick. That's a deep cut. We like that. What's a new team up you'd like to see between heroes?
Yeah, so a team up I want to see, it's maybe not necessarily due to lore or anything, but more so their abilities. So I'd like there to be a Black Widow and a Magneto team up where Black Widow's the anchor and then Mag gets the ability to headshot. Yeah.
What is that?
Look, I'm a simple man. I just want to play Mag every game. Come on.
Hey, he's gonna make Black Widow meta now. This is crazy. What hero would you nerf all the way to bottom tier? To the depths. Worse than Blade. Worse than Black Widow.
Blade is you might be surprised, man. The FMCL Blade might come out again. It's okay into Dinosaur, especially with a bit of rocket.
I've been asking.
Yeah. Okay. I think Sue Storm has been in the limelight a little too long. She's not like as crazy as she has been right now, but she's still pretty consistent. Maybe White Fox actually a new addition. That's kind of and yeah. I mean, Black Cat is a little OP as well. I mean, it's better for our team when Daredevil is the one crazy DPS that runs everything. But no, Devil Dinosaur is perfect and probably needs buffs actually. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. Following it up, what hero would you buff to the top? Straight to the
Yep.
best instead.
I mean, yeah, obviously Mag, Devil Dino. I love playing with Loki. I think having Loki in the game's a lot of fun. So getting him when he's good, the game's good, in my opinion. When he's banned, the game's good as well. So like, yeah, get him out of there. I don't know. We need a ban. We need to buff something that brings it up to Gambit's level. So it first ban isn't just always Gambit. That's what it needs to be. So it shouldn't be Magneto then, so I can still play him. Maybe it should be something I don't like or I'm bad at. So yeah, like I don't know. Maybe Black Widow.
Right.
Make Black Widow overpowered. Yeah, when it was just Black Widow Hawkeye ban, that's easy, right? Everyone was doing that. Like, yeah, bring it back to that.
True. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you spoke about him earlier. What is your opinion on Devil Dinosaur?
I think he is super duper versatile. Can be played as the like in the Groot Venom sort of archetype, and can also be the like have a similar playstyle to like appealing Emma. He struggles a bit into super duper mobile characters on like wide maps. There's one in specific that I lost a scrim on, and yeah, I was very upset on push maps. Like top 10 out of 10, better than Groot. Like blah blah blah. Like you want to pick him. People are taking one-sided in scrims with us. Granted, we scrim other regions, so I'm not sure what else he's gonna do. Yeah, he's good. He's good, but he's beatable. His hitbox is massive, so just shoot him in the head.
Okay, well, somebody else is coming down the line. Cyclops. Do you have any predictions what role he'll be?
Oh, Cyclops is he's always been like a. I've liked him as a character a lot, right? But
You know
I
your
don't know.
X-Men. You know your X-Men. I know you do.
Yeah, I know. It's I don't know the love triangle between him, Jean, like Wolverine. I absolutely despise that. Like this guy is he deserves the world, and he deserves to be played by somebody like me. But he's like it was Devil Dino's a Vanguard, so Cyclops is probably going to be a duelist. If he's a strategist, I'm going to lose my mind. But yeah, I mean, hopefully he's just like a hit scan sort of. I can't imagine them giving him like crazy movement or anything. I don't know how they'll keep it close to like comic book accurate, but yeah, I mean as long as he shoots straight and does a lot of damage, like that's all I can ask for.
Now, you've been scrimming. You've been preparing for Ignite. Now, we want to know, what is your opinion about the current meta?
So the current meta is probably the most flexible it's been in a hot minute. A lot of things are good, a lot of things aren't. So it's map dependent comp. So like I think that's the biggest. And I mean, yeah, you just switch characters, get a better matchup. Can't just pick one comp and roll stuff because people will pick stuff that's good into it. It's really flexible, and I really don't like that. Our team is definitely a bit of a just play the same stuff, smash our head into a brick wall until it works kind of team. And yeah, it takes us 30 seconds to figure out a comp swap, whereas that's one fight we've lost effectively. But yeah, it's fun. I feel like we will get better, and everybody will get better as the season goes on. But yeah, and it's hard to get the understanding. We had so much time on last tournament's patch that everyone sort of knew what was good, knew what needed to be banned, blah blah blah. So now it's fresh. You'll see new stuff every day.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Now, if you could compete in any other region in the world, which would it be?
I've competed in Asia in other game as well. So I mean, another English speaking region. I think NA is obviously like what is considered the best at the moment, and I'd love to drop my stuff over there. I can imagine I'd come in as like a weaker tank there, but the tier, like the quality of practice and whatever else, right? There's so much more. Oh yeah, even EU would be great too. Actually, and China would be fun too, because I feel like that's probably I've got a lot of friends that play in China, and we scrim a lot of China, so. Yeah, I think that's my answer actually. And a lot of them are decent at English. Yeah, I'd like to play in China.
Hypothetical scenario, okay? Multiverse. You have to swap teams for an entire stage with another player. Who's it going to be?
All right, so for the I mean, I want to stay in OS, obviously. I think
Respect.
This is where the stories are, right? This is where my friends are, the people I care about. So the Chong MRC season that I was on the team, by the way. We came first. FMCL didn't wake up for the 10 placement games, so I subbed in as flex DPS for Chopper Mag, best team in Asia at that point. And I played some thing, that was the third. That was the DPS. So if anything, I'd like to swap with Pethic, FMCL, get back in the DPS slot where I belong. Yeah, it's the most recent tournament win I've had. So hey, obviously worked out for me.
All right. I mean, maybe this might answer the next question. I don't know. Who in Ignite is your biggest rival?
Ooh.
Who on site? Who is it? Like,
Who's on site?
You're like, I'm versing them. I'm going all in, full comms, no holding back, not even letting them get one pick.
Oh, I mean, every game, mate. That's just like every game should be like
That's
that.
true.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, like main rival Gen G, blah blah blah. Like they're sort of seemingly like an insurmountable obstacle at this point. So we look down a tier and we focus on who we think is contesting us for second. And yeah, it's Kanga. It's kind of when the energy when we beat Kanga is great. I'm sort of always zoned in on it no matter what, but the rest of the boys will join in. We'll resonate off each other. It's always Kanga that's kind of BTA as they put it.
Okay, Kanga, but who specifically? I want to.
Oh, who specifically on Kanga? Oh, Timmy
name.
Valkyrie, mate.
Yeah.
I'm coming for you, Tinny, mate.
All right. I might interview him next. We'll see.
All right.
What city do you want to see host a Marvel Rivals LAN?
Oosh. Well, I'd love an Aussie one. I think Melbourne would be pretty chill. Yeah, I'm from a smaller spot, so yeah, don't come here. Or yeah, I think Sydney was great for a different event I went to. But also, if I'm qualifying to it, prefer for it to not be in my country. So yeah, I don't know, somewhere in Tokyo maybe. That's a holiday. That's the next holiday destination. So like go there for free, it'd be wicked.
Final question of the evening: why do you want this? Why do you compete in Marvel Rivals Ignite?
Look, we've actually had this conversation as a team, and I know like, so gaming is like the one thing that keeps me like it is my passion. Outside of the woman I love, right? This is like my favorite thing ever. And I mean, one day, like making it the entirety of making it my career, or at least, I've spent so much time on it. I want, to not necessarily build a legacy, but like when I have kids and grandkids, they'll be like, yeah, like your grandpa Seth went to like X country playing games. Like that is pretty cool. And yeah, I don't know, man. I'm getting old, getting up there. I just want to, leave a legacy, do something relatively cool. Yeah, it's I don't know, it's for the love of the game mainly, but also like, yeah, it's a rare opportunity. Being the best at anything is really, really difficult and really impressive to me. So yeah, being good at games is the same thing as being a good football player in my mind. It takes like a lot of effort, a lot of talent, a lot of skill. But yeah, man, it's just my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Donald. Wish you all the best in the next stage, and everybody who've officially met another rival. Have a good night. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Meet the Rivals. Today, I've got a guest with me. I've got someone who I've known for a very long time. We're talking about Zanstari, the Vanguard, out here representing Gen G in Pacific OCE. How are you doing, Zanstari, bro?
I'm doing pretty good, Lager. Thanks for asking.
Happy to have you here today. Now, let's just get into it. We want to know, how did your esports journey begin? How did you end up on Gen G in Marvel Rivals Ignite?
As most of you know, I came from GZ. Well, I went on to GZ as first as like the little introduction of my little career, I guess. And then after that, we went unsigned, went to Chopper Mag, went to Atlanta, did pretty well as an unsigned team and got the green light basically that Gen G were, looking to put us on. And here we are. So, yeah.
Respect. Well, you've been competing very well right now, top of the region, but outside of competition, what's your profession?
This type of thing is my job at the moment. I don't have any extracurricular activities, or I did have school, but I don't have it anymore because, you know, I had to prioritize this a bit more in the moment than school. So I have, you know, dropped out of high school to pursue this a bit more efficiently. Yeah, other than this, I don't have any other profession.
Right, that's fair play. Fully committed to the grind. We respect it. Now, in the MCU, do you have a favorite film or TV show?
Look, I honestly do really like the Moon Knight show, but my favorite like categorical of like Marvel heroes would probably be the Fantastic Four. I don't know, something about them just reaches out to me a bit more than any other heroes and whatnot. So
A choice to make. What is your favorite hero to play?
overall, you know, everyone knows that Venom and Groot are my most standing out heroes that, you know, I'm known for back in the day. But at the moment, you know, season 8, Devil Dinosaur is gonna be up there, I'm not gonna lie. Even though he's OP and he's broken and whatnot, he's still really fun to play in the current season 8.
Hey, that's all it is. It's all about the fun. But, you know, who's your least favorite hero to play against?
It would depend. I feel like for me, it all depends on the player. You know, I don't have a preferred hero not to play against. I mean, Penny is kind of annoying, but you know, it all revolves around the player. But I think Venom, good Venom players are annoying. I think it'd be annoying to play against the Venom. I'm not gonna lie, or a Cap.
Now, which hero do you wish you were good at? Someone that you feel like you're not good at, you want to be like the best at?
I think it would have to be Captain America. I think if you're good at Captain America, I think you will carry at least 95% of your games. The hero is just such a high impact hero, you know, it's like fits well into the meta at the moment. His ult is really good. Yeah, I think I'd be way better if I got better at Cap than what I was at the moment. So
That's a good shout. Good choice. Now, yeah, you've watched a little bit of Marvel, maybe even read some comics. What hero or villain do you want to see come to Marvel Rivals?
maybe I think Carnage would be cool, you know, expand on that symbiote roster a little bit more. Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like it could I feel like there's I would see how they would work around that, you know, seeing that they could kind of do maybe the same abilities, but because Carnage is a bit different than Venom, you know, could expand on that a bit more. But I think that'd be pretty cool to expand on that symbiote roster a little bit.
I like it. I like it. I wouldn't mind seeing Agent Venom as well one day. It'd be pretty cool. Mix it up a little bit. Now, speaking of mixing it up, you know, what's a new team up you want in Marvel Rivals? Maybe you want to give your favorite hero something cool.
I would honestly not mind them bringing back the Spider-Man Venom team up. I can't think of a new proper team up, but I would prefer like a really good old team up to come back than them having a new team up and it's just absolutely disgusting. You know what I'm saying? It's just
Which hero would you nerf to bottom tier? Absolute worst in the game.
I'm gonna be a bit biased about my own role because, you know, some people say that Tank has the highest impact and Tank is the most OP role in the game, but I'm not gonna lie. I think we got to tone down Black Cat a little bit. Her
Okay.
kit is really cool, but I just think that the damage output that she has is a bit high for what she can do as a character. I think we might have to tone her down a little bit. And Phoenix, we got to stop buffing Phoenix. I'm not gonna lie.
I can agree. I can agree. Well, you know, who would you buff to the top tier? Who needs that buff? Who should be up there as strong as Phoenix even maybe?
This is hard because honestly, I wouldn't mind Magic. I wouldn't mind Magic. I think
Oh.
Magic. I think real sometimes Magic could be a good contender to be a decent hero in some situations.
Now, you spoke about him earlier. What's your opinion on Devil Dinosaur?
I think Devil Dinosaur is one of the no bias. I think Devil Dinosaur is one of the most overtoned heroes that they've brought on release. Maybe I think on release Gambit is a bit better. You know, always the heroes on release is always they're always stupid and they always take a while to tone down, at least like until 8.5, and then they're still not even that toned down. But I think Devil Dinosaur is probably one of the most fun heroes that they've released in a while for especially me as a tank player. You know, the infinite overhealth, the sustain, the grab, the bubble, even the ult as well is really good and it's really fun to use. I think there's a massive skill ceiling in it as well. I'm not gonna lie, even though it's pretty basic of just sitting main and, you know, you can grab people and beam and whatnot. I think the skill ceiling is very high as well. So I do really like the new hero that they brought out.
That's a good shout. Well, speaking of new heroes being brought out, what are your predictions for what role Cyclops will be?
Look, They did what did they release last season? What Black Cat, White Fox.
Yeah.
They did what Angela, blah blah blah. And
Daredevil, yeah.
I think yeah, Daredevil. I think he suits the DPS role. He just has to. If he's a support, I think they're doing something wrong. If he's either a DPS or a tank, then it suits him because it's just for what he's known for. It's too much to put as a support. It's just yeah, you just can't. You just can't.
Currently, you're in the process of stage 1 for Ignite in OCE. How do you feel about the current meta as a whole?
I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit, maybe a little bit messy. I think for some teams it's very straightforward, but I do think the comps that you can play around Dino is very experimental. You know, as you see in some of our games, we play the Rocket Atom. I don't think that's overly a strong backline comp. I just think that, you know, with the dive and with the sustain that Dino has at the front line and Adam Rez and, you know, all the other contenders, I think that comps like that can get really experimental. I think there's no really there's obviously a definite meta, but some people are still figuring it out. You know, there's new things that people learn that are good and what's bad and what can work every single day.
Now, let's talk hypothetical scenario. If you could compete in any other region besides your own, where would you go?
I think every person that you would interview would probably either pick EU or NA because it's just the most competitive, but it also is almost the most highest player count. So, you know, there obviously is a whole bunch of skill ranges that differ going into a highly populated region like that. But I think it would probably be EU or NA that would obviously show the most.
Okay. Well, let's add on that. You know, let's say you had to swap teams with another pro player for just one stage. Who would it be? Any region.
It's completely hypothetical, so I'm just gonna be straight honest. I would maybe swap like myself maybe for Vinny to go 100 Ds. I think 100 Ds is a good team to, you know, participate in and whatnot. You know, their players have had a lot of experience, but yeah, I just think that 100 Ds is a good team to move forward with and whatnot.
Who in Ignite is your rival? Who's that one player?
Look, I mean, you know, every person I talk to that's on the other teams, we all have banter and whatnot. I just think that for me personally, it would have to be someone on my role. You know, you can't banter someone with the DPS role. You can't banter with someone on support. It would probably have to be maybe Tinny or Isaac on Kango or Donald or Beast Node on Chiefs. You know, you just balance out the playing field. You know, got to have that ego on each side.
Now, a little bit of a fun one. You know, what city do you want to see host a Marvel Rivals LAN event?
I think somewhere maybe like England would be cool. You know, I just think for everyone it'd be cool to get that type of you know, knowledge around the world, and I think England would be a cool country, or, you know, whatever it's classified as to go to. In NA, I think maybe like California or something, or either one of those two. You know, maybe it'd be fun to host a tournament in a really big state where everyone can see.
Why do you want this? Why do you compete in Marvel Rivals Ignite?
Well, I mean, I've been gaming since like I was little. You know, I got my first Xbox when I was 5, and I always loved playing games and whatnot. So I just think that having this opportunity to finally have something done with what I've always wanted, you know, not even just going pro, you know, just loving playing games since I was little, you know, I kind of do it because of motivation, because of that. And, you know, now that I've came so far, you know, there's no point on going out of it after, you know, not getting what you want. So I think it's just the whole factor of motivation and, you know, support really that keeps me going in this. Just wait until mid-season. You know, we're gonna get a different placement than 5th and 6th, hopefully a bit higher, and with the meta will changes, you know, and we're gonna be the kings of Pacific. I bet that. I bagged that.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Zenstari, and everybody at home. Congratulations once more. You've officially met another rival.
Thank you.
not having any follow-up, and now they're just staggering him as well.
When the butterflies come through from Saffron, instantly honing onto stage 0. Ultimate to overcome it as the legend gets grabbed out just to get the invisible end.
Used early, actually, from Kickcat. Heaven's Retribution trying to go in for the dive. There's not really that much time to work with.
Welcome back, rivals! And it is a touch bittersweet here in EMEA because we are starting the last week of group stage for ourselves here in EMEA Stage 1. I am your host, Tetcher. I am joined by Ryan Central and Got Moxie. But remember, we should not be sad because it is about to be over. We should go absolutely ballistic for the games we still have to play this week. We've got so many good ones. But as it's the start of the week, let's start off with a quick reminder of what's going on, how we got here, and where we will be going from here. Starting off with our format. These teams have had to play through the pre-season in order to get up to this point, and they have since been sent into the group stage, but it doesn't end there, Ryan.
It doesn't at all. Like, you've got a good gap of time, I think, with like the group stages ending on Sunday, and then 1 month before we see this playoffs action come into the fray with obviously a new character, but we have to sort of wait and see how Cyclops is going to shake up the meta, no doubt. But it does mean that this last game, any ideas, strategies wise with how they want to play the meta, don't hold on to them. Like those aces in your sleeves, use them now because it could be a very different game by the time we get into July.
Excellent point, but something that will potentially remain the same, at least for the rest of this week. Definitely will remain the same for the rest of this week. We have the back pool, and there are some additions, not that you could have told, but potentially from EMEA box.
Yeah, we have three here in EMEA, which is just Midtime, Museum of Contemplation, and Hall of Dejalia. Those are the only three maps, if you look at all of the pool that EMEA has been playing so far, that we would basically say exist here in Stage 1. Everyone else, Lower Manhattan, has seen a ton of play. Not us.
Not
we
here.
just
Not
stick
us.
with
Not
the
one.
same three.
There's still time. Like Ryan said, if you're going to be hiding some strats, then now would be the time to drop them. But Ryan, something else that a lot of people, when we come into Ignite, they will look into this. They've been playing Marvel Rivals themselves. It's going to be this pick ban system. It's not the same as your rank system, and it's not the same as MRC, is it?
No, I mean, the fact that it's all Human Torch makes it a little bit harder to explain, but the general premise is like you want to be banning out your opponent's characters, right? But I guess the main thing overall to highlight with the meta is the fact that Dino is so strong as a first pick and Gambit is so strong that he's a first ban hasn't made the meta dull, but it's made it fairly like bland. It does feel like a lot of teams are trying to play safe with a lot of these options. So again, I want to see off the beaten track today with some no Dino like first picks, no Gambit first bans, just to see what happens, because some teams need to separate themselves a little bit, and some kooky ideas could be all the different.
We'll get more into the better as time goes on. In this ban system, you'll like seeing Gambit banned out first in that mirrored first ban that we do end up getting. But there is one other thing that we need to highlight here. These teams aren't just fighting for spots in the playoffs, which will be coming up, as Moxie said, after a little break, but they're also fighting for this, Moxie. Their share of 200,000 USD.
Yeah, also, you know, bragging rights.
Oh, yes.
Since EMEA currently has won every title, but the two teams that have won are two different teams. Na'Vi, or Rad as they were back then, and Virtus Pro as they were and continue to be ever since being picked up by Virtus Pro having been Team Cats all the way back in Season 0.
All back.
MRC. And there's going to be a little bit of a grudge match going on between those two teams tomorrow. That, for sure, is the series of the season. I think we can all handily say.
For sure.
If it's not a free map series, I will admit I will be disappointed.
Virtus Pro are definitely officially the winningest team I think we have in any region here. They have only not won this preseason for this stage and stage 1 of Ignite in EMEA. Everything else, they've come out top. Na'Vi are probably second because they've always been top 2 in basically every other situation. But those are tomorrow's games. That will be an incredibly exciting series. It's what everyone's looking forward to, especially as you mentioned earlier. This is where you kind of throw away any of those strategies you prepared for this patch because you don't know what's coming up next. But for now, we have more games coming for us today. But we're going to be jumping into a little bit of a demonstration of the fact, Brian, you brought up meta earlier. There have been some different things happening with the meta. We've actually been seeing a couple non-mirrored stuff, but with some interesting statistics despite how many people hyped up Black Cat.
Yeah, I think this is one of those cases where because you ban out a character on the enemy team and not necessarily your own unless they ban it back, like you do get a lot of these like lopsided, we have Black Cat, you don't matchups. And actually like looking into the data and like, okay, well, how many times like, okay, Black Cat has been on one team and not on the other like 28 times, okay? Like 30 like in EMEA almost. How many of those have actually led into wins? Pretty much like a third. She is not really that effective when one team has her and the other team doesn't, because there's other options that sort of fill that slot, and certainly with stuff like Devil Dinosaur are very good. It's just the fact for me, like Mantis is still up there despite having some of her power shifted from her damage boost in the inspiration, now movement speed, and also like Cap. He was like one of those early adopters of like, we want Cap, we're not letting you have it, but it hasn't really worked out. Now it's leaning a lot more to the likes of like Rocket, Mantis, Luna, and Jean Grey as well.
Strategists are starting to rise up in terms of importance, especially with that Rocket and that Mantis. But we'll be getting into that because we still have 3 series to bring you today, and they're going to be fighting across 2 separate groups. Group A, widely considered to be the more terrifying of the groups, as you have both former world champions in it. Oh no, bad times for everyone else. And in fact, some of them will be seeing a little bit of action today. We'll get into that in a little bit. Whereas Group B, we have a bit of a fight over the second place position. There's a lot of action going on there. We will see that in action later on. But overall, are there any surprises for you here, Foxy?
I think, honestly, a lot of people are still looking at Group A to see who comes out on top, since all of the players that we've talked to have put Na'Vi over Virtus Pro, and actually, peek behind the curtain, some of the teams that I've talked to have put Heretics second. So Virtus Pro actually falling potentially down to third when we look at our 2 groups combined. But I think for me, the true standout will be today's match of Reason Gaming versus Shikigami, because Shikigami were a team that exceeded expectations in preseason, but that was when meta was thoroughly dive, and that is exactly what Shikigami's best comp has been, the double Vanguard dive. Now that we've got White Fox becoming a lot more prominent on the strategist line, and I think this actually leads back into the point that Ryan was talking about with the Black Cat and the Captain America win rates, I think it's mostly because there's not as many options for dive as there are countering it. White Fox Luna is so problematic for both Daredevil and Cap and Venom and Black Cat to deal with. It's not just a case of if you ban out one dive option, you can go on to another one that can still fill the position.
Let's follow that line of thought. We can get more into that when that series actually does come up, but we can at least have a look at the future, at that series and what else is coming in today. We're, of course, extremely excited for Reason versus Shikigami. That is going to be a very fun match, and it also is currently the tied second place in that Group B, but we're also going to have in Group B the Chosen Ones versus Heretics. The Chosen Ones are currently 1 and 2. Heretics are undefeated. Whereas in Group A, to finish off the day, the Lions will be looking to get themselves out of a 1-2 position and try and secure Na'Vi that second place in their group. If they can take that map off of them, it would be huge for the Lions to do so. But Na'Vi, they've been having a pretty enjoyable time here, Ryan.
They have almost not been taking it seriously with some of the ideas that they've had, like having level 1 Krug, one of the best strategists in the world, playing Daredevil and just being eliminated multiple times in a row and still winning. It does feel a little bit like Na'Vi are very relaxed in their approach at group stages, considering they've had turbulent ones before. But at the same time, they have some things that they don't want to show because they don't want other teams to see it and maybe copy it going into big games like Virtus Pro tomorrow.
There's so many big games coming up. We've already mentioned we have one coming in today, but let's start off by meeting our teams. Starting off, Foxy, what can you tell me about the Chosen Ones as they'll be starting us off here?
I mean, the Chosen Ones, they've had some good fights, but not some great matches overall. I think for them, they got a little bit unlucky with the meta coming into things because, in my opinion, their star player is 21k on that duelist, and his most impactful hero is the Daredevil. But as we've said multiple times, Luna Snow tends to be the targeted strategist to remove in the ban draft since you're picking away both her team-ups with EMEA and White Fox, but that leaves White Fox alone, and she is plenty problematic enough to be able to shut those Daredevil dives down. So I think for me, I really want to see what they've spent this last week cooking up to be able to move away from that fully dive identity.
But when we talk about dives, Ryan, there's one name that comes to mind for basically everyone who is an EMEA fan, and that is Tanuki, and he's playing on Team Heretics here. What can you tell me about him?
He is opening up the game for himself as being one of the most prevalent melee duelist players to really look at. When Black Panther was never a thing, he's never been a thing, Tanuki made him a thing, and he was well known for it. But the fact that he has access to Daredevil and Black Cat has to be respected. Like we were sort of talking about, Black Cat has fallen out of the draft entirely as like a ban or a protect. But when you're going up against Tanuki, you have to respect it a lot more with how he's been able to work from it. I'm pretty sure that if Heretics win this, they confirm top of the group because nobody else could sort of match this run of form that they've been on. But they've just had to not really show too much, similar to Na'Vi. They're keeping their cards close to their chest because they haven't really been pushed. They've not been taken to weird maps. They've been going through this fairly comfortably.
And Brian, keep it rolling for me here. What are we looking at in terms of potentially some key players from this? With the Chosen Ones versus Team Heretics. Moxie already brought up one, but on Team Heretics, there is another player who their flexibility has meant so much for him.
Yeah, we're seeing Naga, who was pretty much locked in, similar to Jerky for Nava, as Na'Vi, as that sort of tertiary strategist if they wanted to play triple strategist lineups. But now he's been a little bit like unleashed over on the duelist a little bit more often than pre-season. 21k has been doing the same, mostly on Daredevil. I think that's where Chosen Ones would prefer to have him, but he has been thrown in a little bit on the likes of Mantis. So there are like different combinations that Chosen Ones could go from. It's just whether Heretics want to force them on some particularly uncomfortable compositions, because if so, pound for pound, Heretics, you typically expect them to win out.
Two of our games today are almost survival games for some of the teams in them. The Lions and the Chosen Ones will both be fighting against the finalists from the preseason in order to just get themselves another point on the board and try and avoid those not playoff spots. It's a difficult position to be put in, Moxie, but the Chosen Ones, they have the unenviable task of going first as well.
Yeah, and Heretics are a very strong opponent when it comes to ban draft. Like, I think we all remember that match where they go up against Reason, and Reason come out of it with one-sided Mantis, and you're looking at that lineup, and if you were 2 seasons past, you'd be going, okay, for sure, this round is won and done. But nope, Heretics baited them onto the Mantis to have the Ultron, and Ultron stocks have been plummeting as the Rocket stocks have been rising.
Those rocket stocks really have been rising. It's been getting incredibly good value. The quick ult charge, the revive in neutral, it's been a huge deal. But it also, in some cases, similar to like an Adam, you need to make sure that there is a good place to put down that Battle Rebirth beacon, which is a perfect transition for us to begin to get ready to look at maps. As usual, we'll be starting on Domination, and that map is predetermined, so the teams will know what they'll be playing on heading into this. Right, where are we going to be headed?
Ooh, I think we're heading over to that Domination map that we're almost expected to say every single time because the amount of times that we see it. Celestial Husk, only time that we get to see it today, at the very least, as teams know sort of ahead of time going into the week what games we're going to be starting on for Domination for them. And it's like decent. Both these sides haven't lost on it, 1-0, not only in like stage 1, but also just across preseason and Ignite too. We've seen very little, I'd say, overall on like Heretics on this map, considering how much we've seen of them. But it goes to show that like they are happy to win out these series 2-0 because they don't have to show an awful lot.
Well, we'll see what they're willing to show as we're getting ahead into map number 1 of our first best of 3 of the day. I leave you with Ryan Central and Got Moxie.
I think one of the biggest things here, thanks Tetra, by the way, I always feel bad. I'm just like, yep, bye Tetra, we'll see you later, we'll start talking about whatever. I think one of the things about it is because we are seeing a lot of teams like try to bring in or out, in some cases, the Rocket, trying to get rid of like Luna often, Mantis often. But like I mentioned, like Black Cat is something that you have to respect when you're going up against Team Heretics. So I do wonder, it is going to be protected straight away from Team Heretics. They're not going to actually go for the Dino. That's how important it is.
Yeah, they love getting Tanuki that Black Cat, and like you said, this means that Chosen Ones now get the opportunity, and will do so instantly, to remove Devil Dino and secure one-sided Devil Dinosaur. So I think this is actually going to be a very good litmus test for a lot of teams to see if having one-sided Dino is going to be a major crutch, as Heretics will be able to secure themselves one-sided Black Cat, banning it away from 21k, but Daredevil still going to be left up as an option. Now, last week, the major evolution was that the mirror ban turned into Rocket Raccoon, since you're targeting both efficiency of Cosmic Ion Amplifier paired with Endsong Inferno, but also depowering some of that Star-Lord. So there we go. Heretics remove the rocket, but Chosen Ones have to think about what works with Black Cat instead and take out the Venom from Enzo.
It seems to want to go for more of the Vanguard options and dive in. Like, you've already got yourself a one-sided Dino, so taking out some of the other Vanguards is good. Daredevil also a solid protect, which means that you do have an option that is good at shutting down some of the avenues, the other paths that Black Cat can try to sneak down to get into your backline. Daredevil can shut the door. Dino is the door. He could just basically shut off any of those chokes. It feels that they know if Heretics want to put priority on Black Cat, we need to make sure that we protect some of these characters that are very good against them.
Ooh. There is the White Fox ban. This is what we talked about, right? We were saying Lunar Snow was picking up more prominence, but if you were a diving team, White Fox was actually far more problematic. So Heretics taking out the White Fox, a rarer ban than we see, as they now get the opportunity to go for a save. Do they save the White Fox themselves? No, they prioritize getting a good dive Vanguard, which will be the Captain America. Something to note as well is that Heretics still have Daredevil open. Chosen Ones, they've got the Daredevil themselves, but unless they ban Daredevil now, there's actually a chance that Tanuki picks the Black Cat, then sees 21k on that Murdoch, and goes for the mirror so you can use the passive into each other.
One-sided Lunar Snow instead. It feels that if Tanuki is playing on the Black Cat, he has to make it work because he's not going to have too much of a... I mean, the option is still to have Daredevil open, actually, because it wasn't one-sided. It does feel that Chosen Ones want to just see if they can hit some more of the strategists in that backline, because so much of the focus has gone onto the front line with the Venom and the Devil Dinosaur being one-sided. I think for Heretics, this is sort of like the plan. It feels like if you're going to go for this early change of a draft, you are expecting the characters for the Chosen Ones to be taken out. But just as like a reminder here, like Heretics making it into playoffs already, the Chosen Ones, they don't need to worry about elimination or confirming playoffs today as such. It does go on to these couple of days, but this win would do a mighty fine thing when it comes to their chances of making playoffs in July.
Something I do want to say, though, is that late Luna ban takes away resources from Tanuki. It means that he does not have the Idol Aura. They had the opportunity, if they wanted to, of going for the White Fox directly, but they went for the Luna, which means that their dive is going to come into the phase of all of the charms coming on through from that Spectral Surge, which is on a terrifying 6-second cooldown. That thing has cancelled so many ultimates and stopped so many dives. It really is very problematic, especially because the Heretics, not only did they sneak away with Black Cat, they stole Vibrant Vitality! They've got Loki Grip Mantis through!
They've got the whole Trinity working towards them. So yeah, Chosen Ones are going, that was maybe something that passed us by. The Heretics also going to be making use of the Captain America Black Cat combination, as Tanuki is going to be on the Black Cat. Kel Surprise over and under on the objective as we're starting off over on the hand. Just getting some of this money to get started with the utility and seeing if they can go to the backline that is constantly shifting around. The Star-Lord wanted to sort of try and take the sky, put a bit more pressure in that area, but he's immediately found by the Black Cat, has to dive out, and Crash goes crashing out of this first engagement as Heretics start to clear up the lot.
Yeah, that Luna is very easily targeted by a Black Cat and Cap in the back line. Like, Hasta would be the one trying to turn around and peel. You get the bleed, you get the bite, you throw them away from your back line, but he's otherwise occupied, being walled off by Enzo in the front line. So not really a lot of help coming Crash's way, which means that Heretics secure up the first fight and are now in a brilliant position. They can mark out 21k's flanks, they can have Tanuki just keep his fortune up by whipping people as they try to come through from choke. All the while, they tax Chosen Ones at a point percentage by just paranoia. When will the dive hit?
The Chosen Ones have to try to get through one of the tightest chokes to fight in on domination, full stop, against a group who is very happy to be the front-facing character of Enzo. And with all of this, the triple strategists making it hard to take anybody out from Team Heretics. However, Hasta does find a pick over onto Beetle. Seems that there's actually some good trades working out in favor of the Chosen Ones here, and it's whether Tanuki can make this more of a prophetic fight for them and keep them in this sort of key area of the fight. Unfortunately, the invisibility doesn't lead to too much, as the Hyper Beam is just going to take them straight out, but a portal dedicated means the Heretics are still fighting this with progression on their face. They've got 60%.
Oh, Ken's coming back as well, which means regeneration domain in the face of Galactic Legend. If Chosen Ones wants to try and use the solid ultimate to be able to finish off this fight. Alex has the Kumeho unleashed. I honestly think Heretics have stronger ball potential, especially because they've already forced Bubble from Hasta. The Groot Walls are coming through, meaning he isn't getting line of sight from his backline, and the Dino might actually find himself extinct.
And most teams and most players don't want to be taking up that engagement, but Tanuki actually gets the pick onto 21k. It seemed that 21k was the bouncer. You're not coming up here, love. You have to come back some other time. And Tanuki goes, do you know who I am? Live the Chosen Ones having so many ultimates too. It's not looking like they're going to get a good engagement. Freedom Charge now available for Coco. You would have to imagine that this is a chance to actually contest and fight this. Overtime is at least being forced here, but Team Heretics sat on 5 ultimates with very little need to use them. Still not going to actually have them used on this first point if this fight keeps going in their favor. 2 eliminations now find as the Chosen Ones are holding on to all 6 of their ultimates, hoping to maybe take it into the second and stall this out. It's a very weird situation, Moxie. I don't think I've seen many instances of this where 11 out of 12 ultimates were held onto to go on to the second point.
Okay, so to be fair to Chosen Ones, there's a reason they don't ult. And it's because Ken holds regeneration domain. So you see JD there go in on the Star-Lord, use all of his iframes, try to put pressure on like the Mantis and the Loki, because what you have to do with Star-Lord is force regeneration domain. It's one of the most annoying cooldowns to play into, because locking onto the runes actually confuses the auto-locking targets. So if you have everyone stack up inside those greens, not only are they getting damage boost, but you're also spreading all of the damage that the Star-Lord ult is doing, which means that he's a lot more vulnerable. At the same time, Crash was being jumped upon by Tanuki on the back pat, which means that Chosen Ones knew that they would not be able to get eliminations with engagement ults, and they would not be able to out-sustain Heretics who had triple strategist ults up. Which means that for the first time ever, Ryan, we go into first fight, second round and domination with 12 ultimates good to go. This is about to be an absolute bash up.
Deep breaths. If my inhaler's nearby, please make yourself known, because I might need you in a second, as this is going to be a brutal engagement. Beetle would have had his ultimate, I'm sure, as well, but he switched away from the Stranger back over towards the Captain America, so has to start from the halfway point again. Chosen Ones, what's going to be the leap in? It's actually going to be the Strangling Prison that's going to find those picks, and nothing gets used, or at least Jeff gets eliminated before the Fate of Both Worlds comes out on the side of Crash, but it still seems that Heretics are holding on. They're not too pressured, but now Chosen Ones starting to correlate all of these ultimates one after the other. Watching it from Tanuki's perspective, though, it's going to force out another sustain with that Freedom Charge, but it's not going to be too much help in the end for the Star-Lord. Hasta, he's fighting for dear life with the amount of players of Heretics that are in his face. The Jeff is keeping him comfortable and has that ultimate. It's one of the few left for the Chosen Ones, as the Duelists were taken out pretty early in that engagement. Not going to have the chance to use these ults as a reset is required. Heretics using very little.
I mean, Crazy's holding its Jeff to counter Alex's Kumeho Unleashed so you can take the Fox off of the map. But the problem for Chosen Ones is that they have one major defensive ultimate, that being Crash, and that's being completely mitigated by Enzo with these walls on the group, blocking all of the line of sight. So JD's actually giving up Galactic Legend on the Star-Lord to swap onto the Phoenix. More damage burst potential, and closer to Enzong Inferno as well, to potentially be able to use to try and shut down some of the sustained power of Heretics' backline. The problem is, right now, Heretics can just play the angles. No one has to overswing into where the Phoenix can potentially punish, and they can just send that dive in to pick Chosen Ones off one by one in the meantime.
Seems that this is just the most, like, practice that Heretics could get in just playing the neutral in these like odd numbers. They have so many ultimates that are like, if they use this, we do that. But Chosen Ones are not given a chance to do it, as they seem that they're holding back now. Calling card for Tanuki is going to be the leap in the engagement. There's some trades either side, as Coco's going to find a pick onto Alex, but they lose Crash and they're down one of these strategists. Tanuki tries to dodge, goes invisible, but I mean, it's not going to be too much when you've got the Phoenix just charging on down with you with the end song. Crazy with it, Jeff, at least able to take Naga off of the map, but this point is still progressing neatly for Heretics. The fight is well off of the objective, and Ken finally gets the chance to use the God of Mischief. He's been holding on to it for a good 3 to 4 minutes.
I mean, Crazy used its Jeff though, which means that Alex will have Kumiho unleashed. Here comes the Rampage coming through from Hasta, but Freedom Charge from Beetle as well as Regeneration Domain is going to keep that group right up, which means Strangling Crystal lands onto everyone from Chosen One's back line, and the follow-up is instant. Out comes Let the Devil Light from 21k, but you've got Soul Resurgence on the other side, which means Heretics will be able to hold their ground and survive, and Chosen Ones have to desperately hope they can get a Strange Portal off in time, as 21k, no options left, has to throw his body onto point and hope you can stall it, but he goes down, and Heretics walk away with a dominant 2 rounds of 100 to 0% on domination.
One of the weirdest games that we're going to see on domination, I think, so far, but on the corpse of a Celestial, there's not going to be any giant killing today, as Heretics win out on this one pretty comfortably. It is going to be the choice for the chosen ones to see where we're going to go next after this. Hey guys, my name is Ryan Central and welcome back to What's the Meta. We're more than halfway through the group stages of Stage 1 across the Ignite globe at this point, and the meta footprint that Devil Dinosaurs left us has settled somewhat, so according to the data, what are the teams discovering? We have to talk about what stayed the same, and the top 2 kings of the meta are still exactly the same. Gambit is pretty much the priority when it comes to a first ban. We don't get to see him. I think we've spoken about him enough, we all know why. And Devil Dinosaur is still number 2. Teams are protecting Devil Dinosaur because everybody else is. The stats sort of line up that if you have Devil Dinosaur and the other team does not, you have a pretty decent win rate. So they're protecting Dino because when one team gets him, that team usually wins because he's so easy to incorporate into a composition. He's very good at shutting down some of the more like brittle duelists that want to be a little bit more divey. And so he's just a great character to sort of put in the middle of the map and honestly just build around. With the damage that he deals, the damage that he blocks, and just the way that he's able to stall and fight on objectives, yeah, Devil Dinosaur is pretty good and one of your mainstay vanguards for the time being. That's all standard. We could see that in the games that we saw last week, but what has actually changed? When it comes to big winners, there's none more so than Rocket Raccoon. He didn't just become more popular, teams discovered just how to win with him with how he plays. Obviously, he's been buffed over the last couple of seasons, is looking really good. The likes of Be Right Back as just an ability are very useful in these like long drawn out team fights where it gets hard to eliminate anybody because you've got the likes of Devil Dinosaur. Get a pick on Devil Dinosaur, or Be Right Back instantly brings him back into the fray. Yeah, it's going to be frustrating. The team up with Star-Lord is obviously very good because Star-Lord got buffed, and the fact that Rocket is very good with his survivability. The fact that a Daredevil or a Black Cat can jump on him, try to eliminate him, and he's able to sneak out goes to show a lot of what the strategists can do to make sure that they don't get picked off when it's important. Resource generation, the Arn Amplifier as an ultimate for just damage boost for everybody is a key thing to win out some of these long drawn out fights where there's so much sustain. And Rocket can put out a good amount of damage, but he can obviously put out a metric ton of healing too. So yeah, Rocket is one of the main winners when it comes to how much he is shot up the rankings when it comes to not only a protect priority, but also a ban priority too. And his win rate when one team gets him and the other one doesn't is pretty high. One of the highest that we've seen so far. Like almost 2/3 of the time high. So yeah, he's good. And because Rocket got stronger, one of the characters that benefits from him the most and is also a pretty good answer to him got stronger too. That being Phoenix, Jean Grey. She's very good at destroying the deployables with her ultimate. She benefits from Rocket's resources. Damage boost into a solo Jean Grey when you're running triple strategist is a great way to actually find eliminations in high sustain. And he just synergizes really well with Phoenix, as pretty much become one of the major options for a duelist outside of Star-Lord, now that Elsa's sort of fallen out of the fray. And because these two have shot up in popularity, some of the other options that were trying to contest them have fallen down a little bit in the choice order. And one of the major ones actually for losers is Black Cat. She remains a popular hero for teams, but we're not seeing teams nearly spend as much like capital guaranteeing access to her. Her protect cost, she was a common like, we want to protect this character so it doesn't get banned. We're going to try and one-side it if we can. That hasn't really worked. Like the win rate is still pretty underwhelming, like under 50%. If a team gets Black Cat and the other team doesn't, they don't win the majority of the time because other stuff is banned out as an option. So Black Cat just isn't providing that much when it comes to the draft. It just seems that teams are still playing her, but they're like, there's no point protecting her because it just isn't that worth it. And also, we're not going to ban her because we want to get some of the other characters out that we've mentioned instead if we can. It just feels like Black Cat is fine, but she's not super strong that we need to get rid of her fine, or protect her in this case. She's just not being treated as a hero that you must secure. But she's not the only one that's sort of dropped down. Like White Fox's popularity has gone down, Captain America's popularity has gone down, Luna even, who's quite high up in the rankings, has dropped a good chunk, as has Ultron, who isn't seen half as much as before. Not because they're objectively worse characters, it's just because Rocket and Jean Grey are demanding a lot more attention from teams, and that sort of attention needs to come from somewhere. I am really curious to see what we see in like the last week of groups, considering at least for like EMEA and Americas, there's a month we're going to have Cyclops in the game when we get to stage 1 playoffs. So the meta is going to change a lot. So I'm excited to see what this last week of action is going to give us before we go into season 8.5. But I hope you found this interesting. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the action.
And we are back. What a solid series by Heretics. No surprises that they had a really effective run going on through, but they were able to win on out once again, whereas Chosen Ones, bit of a rough start, unfortunately.
I feel like they just got caught up a little bit trying to min-max too hard. Like, at certain points with how long Ken would just hold regeneration domain, and you also had, what, 2 strategist ults up and available free if you weren't careful when you were trying to use Galactic Legend, you just really had to use an ultimate to force a reaction from Heretic's end, because they would just win the fight even if they didn't ult. Like, you had to use that Star-Lord ultimate to open the space for the rest of your team to get anything done, but they just held it and then did not even use it second round because they ended up plate swapping to Phoenix.
The patience of Ken in particular in that was so fantastic. Did such an incredible job of trying to keep the team topped up by just waiting on out. What a good setup. Whereas Tanuki, as we have come to expect, Ryan, continues to do an insane job. He is the Black Cat player.
I mean, he should be, right? We saw this character come out, and it's like, oh, Tanuki, my boy. I think he was very like unafraid to just be like, yeah, I'm not afraid to go for this character and make her my own as a choice. So it has to be respected. It means that you get these sort of wonky drafts, and like Moxie perfectly mentioned, like with all of the chaos with like Black Cat and no Dino on their side, one-sided in favor of Chosen Ones. Somehow, like one of the biggest team-ups with the trio of Groot, Loki, and Mantis was able to get through unscathed.
I mean, just looking at the Black Cat statistics across EMEA, Tanuki has the highest damage out of anyone, the highest final hits out of anyone. These are per 10 minutes. The highest KOs out of anyone. He is topping every single stat except going down the least, which has actually been taken by Phi, just pipping him at the post there. But overall, Tanuki is undisputably the most effective Black Cat in EMEA, Mox.
I mean, you miss out on one of the highest stats he also probably has, which is trauma inflicted on backline players.
We're not recording that one yet. I'll get on the devs.
Like, poor Crash. Every time we looked towards that Luna, it was just Black Cat, Captain America. Every single time that he was trying to get through a choke, and it was reflected in what the rest of the team were able to do. Like, we mentioned it in the round. Haster on Dino is also tasked with dealing with the dive, peeling it off from his backline, but there was just a complete disconnect between those two players because Heretics would just wait for Chosen Ones to send their Vanguard players forward and then jump the Luna and take her out before any peel could come through.
Yeah, Crash had a rough time there. You brought up in the cast as well that Crazy was trying to hold their ultimate to help deal with Alex from time to time, but they just weren't able to get as much of effectiveness here because Heretics were just able to hold their ultimates through all the entirety of round 1 and most of round 2, Ryan.
I mean, you've got triple strategists, so the sustain is crazy, and then all of these ultimates like break in case of emergency, and there wasn't any because the Chosen Ones were using their ultimates to hope that they could force out the ultimates before, and it just turns into a we're gonna think that you're gonna think that you're gonna think that we're gonna think that this is gonna happen. I think one of the main things is like 16 eliminations on that first point for Team Heretics, doubled to 32 by the end of this map. It went from 5 eliminations from the Chosen Ones on that first point to 8. They just weren't finding any picks. And when you have that many ultimates available and the other side is playing triple strategist, it's going to be even harder to find those eliminations. So the choice here is like maybe Jolly, maybe Museum. Jolly seems to be the place that a lot of teams are going. Yeah, I'm going to go for Museum, which is a confident place and always has been consistently for Heretics.
We're mixing it up here, trying something a little different, going to the one of the 2 maps that we always go to as a map 2. Museum of Contemplation will be our second map. Can the Chosen Ones prove their name correct and bring themselves back into the series, or will Heretics shut them down? I leave you with Ryan Central and Godmox.
What was the stat that you said the other week, Moxie, of like there's only been one team that has actually fully finished out this map? I would imagine in this case it is going to be like the Chosen Ones probably attacking first because they want to draw that line on how their defense is going to go, whether they have to full hold or whatever. Like it's going to be that. So Heretics are going to be finishing out the map here. Chosen Ones hoping to push this out. Going for a Black Cat ban, at least to begin with, means that it's going to be a little bit more messy, I think, but they do get the Dino.
Yeah, Black Cat ban instantly, but Tanuki does still have the Daredevil coming through for him. Luna Snow's also going to be removed, which sort of became the default ban coming on out from both of these teams. Gambit instant ban into the Luna second ban so that you can start depuwering some of the strategist uptime, but also take out 2 very strong team-ups.
Gambit though.
This is the thing about Team Heretics. If you prioritize removing Tanuki's hero pool, you leave open the Gambit, which means that Chosen Ones you absolutely must address at some point, both Rogue and Star-Lord, which means that Loki Mantis group likely gets a pass yet again.
Yeah, Devil Dinosaur is going to be banned out on one side for the Chosen Ones, but I don't think it's going to matter as much. Like, Gambit has only been let through twice, I think, and been one-sided, and he's won both occasions, one of which was with Team Heretics in that first game when they played up against Rad at the start of stage 1. But Rocket's going to be banned out. That's consistent, and at the very least, like, Loki's going to avoid that team up that we just saw, and also if there is going to be a one-sided Rocket here too, there's no copy.
Well, it's also double casts of Raging Royal Flush.
Which is also true. There's
absolutely the worst outcome you have to avoid, because you would run Loki Gambit, you would avoid a triple strategist line, which means that you have maximum uptime for your strategist ultimates, and use the Loki ultimate because he likely gets it first off of the AoE that he does, to then provide the ultimate acceleration for your Gambit, and then you can play like Star-Lord with actual Gambit, or use Loki copy of Gambit ultimate to force a strategist ultimate, and then actually save your true lethal blow. And there we go! Star-Lord gets banned out, but here's the thing, Ryan. Chosen Ones have used up all of their bans. At least they've targeted the Loki, but Heretics get the save on the Mantis, the Phoenix Steel to be able to pocket, the Groot to be able to enable the ultimate hit with the Strangling Prison. This is still a very rough draft for Chosen Ones to have to match up into.
I would imagine here, like with the one-sided Loki movie, this final ban for Heretics is going to be Mantis. Yeah, it seems to be a consistent option of just taking it out and not having to deal with it. And most of the time, Heretics has been very keen to not have Mantis make it in on the enemy team's side. So an interesting draft. I mean, at the very least, appreciate the Chosen Ones trying to go for something a little bit different than what we've seen, because it does feel like if they try to play this draft as safe as possible, you're going up against one of the strongest teams, certainly in your group. You need to find some differences somewhere.
Well, the Loki is also a really good save coming through from Chosen Ones, because it's the next best thing to having a gambit of your own to match Heretics. The problem becomes it's dependent on line of sight. And it's also very easy to punish when you're using a Loki on the defense, because you just go Moon Knight, you've still got the Groot, you've got the Mantis for the damage boost. Imagine the rate that you pulled up the Hand of Conchus off of the Ankh bouncers from the Doppelgangers.
And I mean, we've seen some cases where Moon Knight has actually been banned out. I don't think it was on this map in particular, but it was definitely a convoy where these first chokes could be really gruesome. Heretics, though, they've been very comfortable, I think, in how they've played this so far. Really only getting towards the second checkpoint once, which was against Na'Vi in playoffs where they lost. The only loss that they had. Every other time, either a full hold or at least being stalled out in first.
Here we go. Tanuki, deprived of Black Cat, going to be on the Phoenix to have the Mantis with the damage boost pocket, which means that there is a lot of pick potential. Beetle even opting for the Venom so you can disrupt the backline, but Chosen Ones, they've got a grid of their own, and they do have the Moon Knight already locked, so they're going to try and build up that combo as quickly as possible. Beetle hitting into the backline, trying to force out some of the strategist cooldowns, but it's Hasta who falls first because the strategists are having to deal with the dive, which means that the front line gets fully left behind.
Beetle was not afraid. In some of those instances, you see, okay, the symbiotic resilience is going to be used. He might want to leave. No, he's staying. Oh, he's got the pick. He's actually found two. And the rest of Heretics is there to able to support him. So Chosen Ones already losing control of this party bus. There could be a nice ticket to playoffs, but at this rate, it's seeming like they're going to have to wait a couple more fights as these series go on. Chosen Ones hoping to build up some of this damage with their own Phoenix, but Tanuki, going down pretty low, is able to very easily and comfortably try to reposition whilst the dive comes in again from Beetle.
I mean, Beetle is being chased away, and crucially as well, Crash was able to hold on to Regeneration Domain, but yeah, here we go. Venom, half HP, more than happy because you still have the shield to be able to go, force out the resources, get back to your team around corner, get fully stabilized, because now you have your Gambit ultimate, and that is your go sign. Out comes Raging Roar Flush, and away goes Chosen Ones all the way back to spawn.
It was all used up in the end, and I think there was even a copy attempted, right?
Yeah.
Chosen Ones went for it, and Gambit does fall. It was a nice attempt for Chosen Ones to try and get their own Royal Flush on their side, but instantly deleted from Heretics and Tanuki.
Strangling Prison setup as well, potentially to pair with End Song, which means that you don't have to worry about forcing Regeneration Domain because the Phoenix ult just breaks through the cooldown. Chosen Ones have their own combo up, but they're still having to wait for the Moon Knight to come on through. Enzo's looking for the ultimate. You can tell he just wants to wait out the bubble from the Dino so it doesn't get blocked. There's the ultimate. They all get grabbed. Tanuki tries to get the Ensong Inferno through, but Crazy is able to come on through with the invisible boundary. Heretics lose the group for being that far forward.
Yeah, it seemed like the instant position from Tanuki is like, okay, we might need to back up here, but gets almost focused for the Strangling Prison. So now there's a chance here. Heretics actually forced to use ultimates this time. As Kamiho was used, Kamiho was instantly shot down as the Hand of Khonshu comes slamming through onto this defensive side. Portal's going to be used pretty early again.
Oh, spawn camp.
Yeah, they wanted to try maybe cut out some of these players that are on their way. Moon Knight is going to have to deal with a couple more ghosts in his head as the rest of Heretics jump him. It was so brutal, we didn't even get to see it on broadcast.
That is so painful. And then Beetle even is able to get the touch for Heretics. Without the Moon Knight here, you're not dealing so much damage to be able to burst through the triple strategist sustainability. JD's getting fully pressured as well, trying to force this end song early. There goes the Phoenix ultimate. It crucially collapses onto Alex as well, so the Gambit is removed, the Mantis falls, and Heretics now reliant on only White Fox heals. That is not enough to fully sustain the team, and Chosen Ones will be able to move on to second of Museum.
Able to actually get some more movement here, but Reason Gaming Pulsar were able to do the same for Heretics. It's this part of the map where things really start to halt for the attacking side when they're going up against Heretics on this defense. Not really looking like there's going to be any changes for the compositions for the time being, other than their Squirrel Girl spotted from Infected.
This is just about a war of attrition from Chosen Ones. You've got Phoenix spam, you have Squirrel spam. Really make Tanuki uncomfortable to be able to hold his position so that you don't get to use one-sided Mantis damage boost to be able to win the duelist duel coming through. Especially with Crazy on the invis, you can already see, like, every time we look at the Phoenix POV from JD, Guardian shields in front of him, making sure he has the highest amount of uptime. But he does fall to Beetle, Enzo catches on to Crash. That's a very late invisible boundary forced by Strangling Prison, and Chosen are already down 2, which means that if this fight goes long, all they're doing is bleeding time.
And this is a very uncomfortable position for the attacking team to be fighting from when the high ground is so readily available here. And this engagement has just been going through the motions to the point Cash has managed to actually get the ultimate over from the God of Mischief. Not sure if he's been able to get onto Alex to copy it, but no, he does actually. So it is a royal flush on both sides. And Alex is actually the first to go down in this case as the Stampede is going to be used for Infected Twist. He has found himself something. His time has come. He's been sucked into this game to play Squirrel Girl. Found 2 picks and maybe has found a way for the Chosen Ones to barrel their way for the second checkpoint.
Maybe Squirrel Girl is the ace in the acorn hole for Chosen Ones to be able to brute force through the sustainability of Heretics, but so close to defense spawn on second of Museum, and Chosen Ones running out of steam in terms of those ultimate resources means that they're fielded back to spawn yet again. And Heretics, they'll close hold this. They know that Strangling Prison's up, they know that Rampage is up, but if you just force those ultimates with something like a Venom hitting that disruption on the walk-up, the rest of your team won't be in a position to get caught out.
See what the plan is going to be now, but Tanuki instantly takes out Infected Twist, so the Squirrel Girl is going to be sent back to spawn yet again, which these fights have just been so long. Like, the reset's not clean. It's just allowing Heretics to actually get some good farm up on these ultimates whilst they're sat back on the defense, and 2 of their free strategists have these ultimates available, and Alex is very close to having another royal flush.
I mean, this is huge because the Heretics, they're targeting Coco when they don't have Royal Flush, which would be able to purify the cast of Strangling Prison and take away the threat of the combo of Enson. They don't have the ultimate yet, so what are they doing? They're targeting the crew to make sure that JD just does not get the setup to have the confidence to commit the ultimate. Rampage comes on out. Chosen One's actually using Invisible Boundary to cut
Lovely
off,
pick.
curb the disengagement from Heretics, but Tanuki just holds his ground. He has Enson Inferno. He does not care about disengaging. He's got the ultimate for the full health reset, and Chosen One's just burned a lot of ultimates on a gambit of a play.
I mean, an awkward time to see a pause come in. Something's clearly gone wrong as the teams wanted to just take a minute to fix whatever the issues might be in this case. But, oh, nice to see some Squirrel Girl. I don't think we've seen her at all in Ignite full stop this year, at the very least. Very little last year, other than some, like, spawn break compositions, which is exactly what the Chosen Ones are hoping to go for. Yeah.
The classic Orion crosshair. True OGs will always recall the Orion Squirrel Girl, but here's the problem. Heretics still have defense ultimates. Chosen Ones have been able to brute force their way onto the objective, but it's overtime. They have no ultimates to be able to contest this, which means one-sided Royal Flush coming on through from Heretics' side, and this is just about clean.
Yeah, this is a ridiculous fast turnaround to get that Royal Flush into play. Tanuki, not on the melee characters as we would expect, but certainly making the Phoenix absolutely shine in the skies. The Chosen Ones made a good effort. Like I said, they pretty much rode the payload to that line that so many teams have gone up against Heretics and got it to on the attack. The problem is, a good portion of those haven't won. So, I mean, Heretics are comfortable here.
It's trying to get through the second point of Museum of Contemplation, which is always the pain point for these attacking teams because of how easy it is for, if a defense wins one fight, you just tighten the stranglehold outside attacker spawn. Force them to have to use ultimates there before they get onto the objective. You can kite those, you don't have to match them, or you can just go first before the team is fully able to walk, using things like the Groot Walls to be able to catch off the Vanguards and split them from the strategists. There's so many options that are open for you, and it makes it almost impossible for these teams on the attack to have to fight plan into when they get very little distance that they can actually walk before the engagement hits. A lot of the time that means that those engagements are coming through when you're still halfway through your comm check.
Look at this comm. Beetle on the Winter Soldier. It could be. It's a spawn break. I just don't think I've seen Beetle on a duelist ever, and I don't really blame him for going for this play. I think it's usually Enzo that's on the Punisher, and this was a bit of a jump scare, but it's just the top of the bus that Heretics are hoping to cruise in as we get towards the end of their group stage. Yeah.
I think we might have to check the channel points. That Enzo is on pun.
Why is that too different? I mean, we've seen it a little bit in the past, but not for a
but
long ass time.
It's solo Vanguard Heretics with Manta's damage boosters trying to overpower Chosen One's defense.
Well, they've made a good start at the very least, as the one-sided Black Cat has found very little, but it has forced a regen domain, as Infected Twist is just spraying and praying in the best way he can manage it, so has at least found one pick. This could be a very fast point take with everybody going down. Surely Chosen One's going to be forced to go for a portal play.
I mean, do they get the chance to? Because Tanuki's already going to be within eye shot of Spawn, which means that if you try to go for Strange and you don't body block, Phoenix can stun you out of the portal.
He's gonna try and go for it. Yep, gets interrupted. He got interrupted. There's no chance. They have to give this one up. So not only is it a case of not being able to actually hit this point that Alex has been so keenly and cruising along with, that's probably no portal for the next like 3 minutes, right? Like there's some key times that Chosen One trying to get back into this fight. That's a big loss.
I mean, they're also stuck in a really bad spot in terms of positioning because they're all coming through from first spawn as opposed to second, which means that Heretics are already on top of them with high ground control. So out comes Ensong Inferno onto the only player who had an ultimate, because it's Squirrel Girl. You're always going to have your ultimate off of the spam damage that you're doing, and Heretics are losing too. But wait, Brian, look at the top left. They're just playing with their food at this point.
Tanuki's like, wait. I don't get to play Black Panther, but you do? Like, that's just mean. That is no Vanguards running it down, and Kamiho from Ken could be the last statement that Heretics need to make over on this map, as it seems the Coon Squad is about to make it through from Heretics for these fights.
Look, no Vanguard required when you have Raging Roll Flush, Final Judgment, Manta's damage boost combo. Chosen Ones, they already used Invisible Boundary. Like, Kumiho Unleashed is about to get unleashed for all of 0.5 seconds before it gets exercised right out of existence. As it has to at least, well, trades the 1 versus 1 and to raise
Coco's
the
on
problem.
Punisher as well. And there's a Psylocke now. Okay, this is just a Doom match. Just put us on Alchemax now. Like, let's actually see these players like take it out, because this has got very unserious very quickly.
What is going on my Museum of Contemplation?
The thinking has stopped.
Please, at this point, just put
There's
this match
Spider-Man.
out of its misery. Out comes Final Judgment. Chosen Ones trying desperately to try to get through the spawn doors, but enough is enough. Crash will get one before he, I'm sure, goes down. And that was the maddest Museum of Contemplation that we have seen yet. But there it is. The series concludes.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to contemplating ideas, I think there was less brain cells than players in the server with how those compositions came up. But clearly, the Chosen Ones feeling that they were checkmated in that series. They'd seen that Heretics had very much taken their foot off the pedal a little bit, and they decided, like, we're going to do the same. We're going to relax it out. This is an okay match for them. Heretics have already qualified for playoffs, and Chosen Ones didn't rely on this game too much to actually qualify at some of the other ones, but you were hoping for a little bit more of a fight back here, right, Tetra?
Yes, I have questions. The first one is what, the second is why.
I don't have answers.
Heretics with an incredible series. They kind of take a leaf out of Navi's book at the end there, do some, we'll call it experimenting, mixing up of their characters a little bit here, but yet we still see the Heretics that we've come to expect. Tanuki is still dominating. Ken with the portal interrupt that was absolutely delightful, incredible play there, and we even got to see the Ken Captain America at the end, the Beetle Duelist on the Black Panther. They at least had a good time. And of course, a shout out to Infected Wrist bringing out, I believe, our first EMEA Squirrel Girl of Stage 1. So good to see Doreen making an appearance. But that is good news for Heretics, because they are now very clear at the top of their group, Moxie.
Yeah. I mean, it got a little goofy, but for Heretics, you could still see from this series how dominant they were and why there really is like a lot of thought behind these teams that are ranking Heretics second behind Na'Vi, but in front of Virtus Pro. This is the first and probably only time that we can actually get to use the hero on this graphic for a Ken MVP. Truly a god of mischief main himself. Not only can he play the strategist, but he can play the Vanguard too.
We love to see it. It's literally Loki in Thor Ragnarok just turning into Captain America to take the mic. Delightful to see. But yeah, a well-deserved MVP there, great healing output, was able to prevent any of the counter dive, playing as White Fox into a Squirrel Girl who's getting a huge amount of burst damage. Very effectively done, didn't really get punished that much, only went down 3 times. This was an incredible performance from him.
It was everything that you would want for Heretics, a fairly easy standard day where you didn't have to show too much and you could sort of leave that pressure behind. Sorry, Crook, but I think Ken has like mugged you today, at least in this like head-to-head. But like, there's always a chance to see how that's going to work in playoffs. But that's the main thing. Like, Heretics don't have like the Virtus Pro and Na'Vi in their group to have to worry about. And even then, Na'Vi Virtus Pro have already qualified for playoffs. Their matchup is tomorrow. The Heretics can afford to be a little bit more relaxed in their approach. They've got Fire Strays as their final game, whereas the Chosen Ones have Shikigami, who are playing next. And I think they want Shikigami to win because then Shikigami would be there for playoffs, which means that they might have a chance to try to slip in. Or it's like they want Reason to win, so Shikigami's on a bit of a loss streak, and then they could do the final blow in their game on day 3, I think it is. So like I said, like Chosen Ones still have a chance. They're not like mathematically out of like playoffs contention here. And this was never a game that we expected them to like win. It would have been a shock. But it's the whole pressure of it, right? It comes down to one game, and it becomes out of your hands as well, depending on how Shikigami do next.
I mean, I think for Heretics, the content is obvious that they have to do now, though. Tanuki has to do a VOD review of Beatles Black Panther gameplay.
Perfect. They just all VOD review each other. Just everyone swaps around. Take a screenshot of this and post it with like the healing numbers like cut out so you can't see how much healing they did.
Post
that to the main Reddit and just watch them have
No, just take a screenshot of this and post it on social media with zero context and tag your friends to be like, hey, try to make sense of Marvel Rivals Ignite EMEA today.
You may not like it, but this is what peak Marvel Rivals gameplay looks like. This is the new meta. Your quick match teammates were right. It's the 3 duelist double strategist and Captain America team up. Oh my god. I mean, to be fair, they've got a lot of ult charge there. Delightful to see.
That's the only comment you have.
They got all the ult charge characters, right? Alright, we have an interview with Tanuki coming on in here after yet another spectacular series. So I've got to ask, we'll start off with the obvious question. I guess things might not be going well in the locker room. You're trying everyone out in different roles. What's going on back there?
I mean, they started to make the game really hard for us, giving us Gambit, and we thought of trying some different comps with Gambit, because we struggled the last time we played it. And I think we have a clear idea on what we want to do now that we tried Beetle and Black Panther. So we're getting better at the character. I don't think people can give it to us.
I mean, that was the probably key question I was going to ask. As much as it got very unserious there, like, now that we're getting towards the end of groups and playoffs, you're already confirmed for playoffs. Playoffs is going to be on a different patch. Like, have we seen the drafts sort of start to spiral a bit more with, like, Dinosaur not being picked first from, like, scrims or just your experiences in general? Like, Black Cat being a bit more, like, is the meta starting to open up a little bit, would you say? Or is it still like Gambit should be first banned, Dino should be first protected?
I think it should always still be a Gambit, but I mean, it's always going to happen. It's getting banned so much, people are not going to play it, so people are going to test the waters with leaving it open against teams. But I think at the moment, every team can play their own style. Dino feels for more front to back, and Cat is more dive. I mean, Rocket to survive. It's all over the place. It just depends on what your team prefers. I think everything is very viable at the moment.
I mean, I think I'm going to ask the question that I'm sure everyone has, which is rate Beetle's Black Panther, because he didn't even get an ult off the whole round. What do you think he did wrong on the character?
I mean, I was very busy actually keeping the team together and playing the one character that was getting kills. So it was a little bit hard to see how he was doing, but I think we're definitely going to VOD review it after this game, because it has to be improved if we get Gambit again. From what I saw, it needs a lot of improvement. That's for sure.
With that, you are pretty clear up at the top of your group. You've got one match left, which will be tomorrow against Fire Strays. Any particular prep you're doing for them, or anything you want to say to them ahead of said game?
I mean, I like the guys. I wish them the best of luck in the official. I don't think they're gonna win. But I hope they put up a fight better than what today was, because we want to get as much practice as possible, and even officials can be practiced to get better. So I wish them the best of luck, but you're not gonna win.
Well, thank you very much from Tanuki with the fighting words. We'll let you get back to your VOD review.
Thank you.
Always delightful to have Tanuki. What a series we just had, and that was just the first one of today. But coming up next, we've been talking about it, we have the series that, in particular, we've been talking about that we're excited for. Reason Gaming versus Shikigami. They are currently tied in their group, both full of some incredible legacy players, and now they have to go up against each other, and that could decide who comes second in this group, Ryan.
Yeah, it's a very defining game. This also has terrified me with how the series ended when we got Na'Vi playing later, who are probably thinking, we need to outdo that. Which is terrified for the Lions, who are going to be up against them.
Moxley will come back with you after this break so we can get set up for said series, so don't go anywhere. It's going to be Shikigami versus Reason Gaming.
What are you aiming at?
Hello, rivals! Please remember, if you're enjoying these games and any of the games from our other wonderful regions, then Team Partner Bundles are live in-game right now. Gear up with your favorite team's bundle, showcase your loyalty, and take your esports spirit into every match. I am one of the people who ended up getting, the multiple team bundle, and I do play quite a lot of Deadpool in the Vanguard role, so I will be rocking a different skin basically every single game because delightful. Show a little bit of support for everyone, including the teams in our other regions. But speaking of support, we have an incredible matchup, especially from our strategist players who were able to put on a huge amount of work. Ken and Alex on Heretics did so much for their team, but it's going to be a much more stressful matchup for these teams as this is a heavy amount of competition, Moxie. Starting off with Reason Gaming.
Well, first thing to note is that Nocta is going to be in as opposed to Knuten, who we saw last time. I think, for me, it's just wanting to see the direction that Reason goes because they were sort of one of the teams who was the first on the block into working out how strong Rocket Raccoon was within week 1, and now in week 2, I don't think after we've seen so many bans come out towards the strategist, it's feasible that they'll be able to get their hands on him again. I think much more likely is the Loki being able to escape the ban drafts, given you now have to look at the Luna, the Gambit as your instant ban, Mantis for her pair up with Phoenix, which I'm sure Simba will be wanting to try to get his hands on, or Nocta. Both of them can play her.
And Ryan, sitting exactly tied with Reason currently, both at a 2-1 set with a 4-3 map score. Shikigami, a team that did wonders during the preseason.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that they've had bad results either. I think the only loss that they've ran into so far has been up against Team Heretics, where it just didn't go their way at all in the first game of their group stages. But it's more just what they've been saying. I think in some of the interviews, Frost Mountain was pretty honest and just been we're really not sure what the meta is. It seems that they're finding their footing, but it's Reason Gaming are sort of going through the same struggle. They were almost 2 on the meta before with the Rocket stuff that they were playing, that now that teams have realized how strong it is and they want to ban it out, they've struggled to fall back on something else in particular. But this is a team we would expect to make it playoffs, but this would be a telling game to make it in if they're able to win out against Reason.
Speaking of, Ryan, I believe you've been doing some maths behind the scenes. What do you think might be happening here?
Yeah, I mean, it's all on me. I've been in Shuri's lab, and she's like, what are you doing? By the way, you spelled Shikigami wrong. In this case, yeah, it's because both these teams are even. If you win out this series for either team, you're 3-1. Even if you lose that last game, you're 3-2. The chances of making playoffs on that is pretty high in all cases when it comes to these matchups that they have left, because Reason Gaming have Crownfall and Shikigami have the Chosen Ones. And both of those teams are going to be watching this, hoping for the other team to sort of lose it out in this case. It pretty much is all to play for, and at the very least, it gives yourself a good chance of having solid seeding to basically avoid the likes of Virtus Pro and Navi on the other group, if that comes down to it. So here, it's just confirming a place potential.
With the Chosen Ones not being able to take their last series that we just saw them in as well, it's even more of a little security blanket here for Shikigami and Reason. So this could decide a playoff spot. It could, in theory, decide a very important second place in the group. Moxie, we were talking about it before. We obviously don't know where the seedings will lie when we head into the playoffs, but traditionally, a high seed is extremely useful, especially going into these playoffs when Group A exists.
I think it's not just that, it's also about morale, right? Because both of these teams, as we said when we looked at them separately, very much in the same boat. Shikigami were a dive team coming through from preseason. They were known for double dive vanguards. Meta has moved into a position where you can now really quite easily counter double dive with just your strategists. It's not fully reliant on having peel from the rest of your team. So Shikigami like that, I think, is why their unease is around the meta currently. And then Reason have showed so much inconsistency, I think, is their main issue. They've showed so many different compositions. They've showed so many different ban drafts. I don't really know which is their strongest. In my opinion, it was the Loki Rocket, but it sort of feels a little bit like a jack of all trades, master of none situation, because if you're working each week on a different composition, you're not getting a lot of time to be able to nail down one specific thing.
There's a lot of question marks in this game and a lot riding on it. We're starting off On Bearded T'Challa, I leave you with Ryan Central and Godboxy to bring you all the action of this game number 1 between Reason and Shikigami.
Thanks, Boo. This one is a major one, I think, and this stat sort of really sets up how great of a best of 3 this is going to be. Both these teams on Benim T'Challa have won. On Benim T'Challa alone, it's only been played the once from Reason Gaming, twice for Shikigami, but in all of those cases, it was a 2-1 win. So we're expecting this to go to all 3 points so far in how they play it. And just also for the other teams that are watching this, hoping for some like results, it generally comes down to like the Chosen Ones want Shikigami to win and Fire Strays want Reason Gaming to win. So there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes of how these teams are playing, and more of the normalness, I would say, so far with the draft.
Yeah, this is default. I think like it's fair to say we've had 3 weeks now. This is straight up default. Black Cat is going to be banned because, as we've established, Shikigami is a dive team and Black Cat is a dive duelist that you don't really want to have to worry about with all of the plays that she can set her team up with, being able to portal from some very strange position. She's very hard to be able to scout out without committing to something like a Daredevil yourself, and that can box you into having to play a dive split variant in your composition. There goes the Mirror Rocket ban coming on through, which I think is honestly still default for a lot of these teams. So now the question falls to Shikigami, what's the save? Is it one-sided Luna? Do they go the way of the Daredevil now that they've seen that Reason are very uncomfortable against the dive duelists?
I think one of the characters that's going to be key here too, whilst the Phoenix, the Jean Grey, has been protected from Shikigami, wanting to make sure that there is some comfort for Laylas to rely on, no matter what it might end up in, is Mantis. Like, both teams have tried to like get it one-sided. The other option was Rocket, but of course it's banned on either side. So here it's like Reason Gaming, you might have a good chance to try to get it here last and then protect it, stop it from being traded, but you want to make sure that there's not a one-sided Luna Snow going through. Here, you could protect the Mantis if you wanted to, but they might also want to try and get some more, like, their own Jean Grey on the line, for example.
I mean, this is the catch-22 though. If you save the Phoenix, it's not going to be a fair duel between the two psychics, because Shikigami will just use the last ban slot for Mantis. So you actually preserve the Mantis, and now Shikigami, if they want to be able to take out the Phoenix, will use this in the ban slot instead, which still means that you'll get a strong duelist for her to be able to pocket, or you get your Loki through, which, as we've established, Reason have loved having Loki in the back line. Ever since Rocket started being fully targeted out in the ban draft, Loki was the thing that slipped through for them and was a huge source of comfort. So Shikigami still going to be leaving a Mantis of their own up and available too, since Reason did not opt to have it one-sided, taking out the Luna instead. So straight up 2 for 2 duel on that aspect.
Yeah, it's a key one as well, I guess, because it should be Relaxing Sky playing over on the Mantis, but he was also their lucky player. So might have been a slip up there, but I imagine like Rash, who is debuting so far at this stage for Reason Gaming, might have that to rely on, but it looks like he's going to be hovering over the white box. I'm not going to look too much at what Simba's playing because I'll get my hopes up and then get disappointed. But this is as big of a game as you could expect, pretty much locking yourself in 99% of the way towards playoffs with a series win here. Reason Gaming wants to try and make playoffs for the first time. Shikigami wanted to show that their third place finish in preseason wasn't just lightning in a bottle.
Okay, Leolas, get on the hero you're actually going to play. There we go. Phoenix comes on through. With a game this serious between these two teams, you're not locking Human Torch unless you're like Shikigami on Central Park with the Ultron. It will be the Phoenix. They had the option to go for the Mantis, but they actually swerve it to go for the Loki Invisible Woman instead, which does mean that Simba will have the better of the damage output that he can do in neutral as well as the ultimate. So that's why you're seeing a lot of pressure come through onto him to make him uncomfortable so he can't hold the angle and try and snipe someone down.
Warriors Fall is going to be that first area that we're fighting over on Benim T'Challa. And Layla's trying to skirt around the areas of the map to make sure that he's not going to get run down by these players from Reason Gaming. Progression on the point is leaning towards Shikigami by a pixel at this rate, as Reason Gaming now starts to feel a lot more pressure. They're fighting in a neutral space like this. They don't want it to just be ticking over in favor for Shikigami, but that's happening. The rest of the team may be looking to try and disengage to stop this ult charge from farming up, but the Seedor is not going to leave any space open. He's going to instantly try to charge them down. Reason Gaming have to give up a lot of this control, and Shikigami sitting comfortably on 15%.
But they keep Passo alive, which means that Ban Hammer will be in effect. in this next fight. It will be used almost instantly and shreds down Frost Mountain. That was Sedation coming over from Mantis at the same time, which means that Cheeky now don't have the Daredevil to be able to try and slow Reason's approach. Regeneration Domain is as best as they can safely kite, and giving up a little bit of space, but still playing the high mobility of their heroes to hold on to the point to preserve the point %.
There's still like Reason Gaming wanted to fight over this, but Shikigami had played down. It was Frost Mountain that was eliminated. He's going to be back into the fray at this rate, but past the row after the Banhammer, not much was followed afterwards as the Ensong Inferno is going to come crashing down onto some of the players in the back line, at least for Shikigami, but the leap forward is going to be there with an Ensong Inferno of their own. Instantly trying to go for the lateral connection onto Simba, who gets taken out, and Shikigami notably winning out the fight, but more importantly, didn't lose control. It's now up to 60.
I mean, they just have so much mobility. The Cap and the Daredevil can go and split into Reason's back line. Kaya can hold the front line down, but Eastor is way too far forward, gets punished for it, and now falls, and that was with Freedom Charge intact. Cheeky do still have double strategist ults to be able to fight this one out, so if the fight goes long, you could actually see this start to tick into overtime, which is not something that Reason want to have happen, because if they have to use all their ultimates to match, they won't have anything for any of the fights that occur after, and because they're not going first, Ryan, Eastor's already back and putting pressure on Reason, splitting the team's attention and meaning they're just not in a position to make a play on point.
There's no catalyst of plays here, so it's being stalled out in the end, but overtime is going to be forced out from Reason Gaming as much as these other ultimates are going to start to come through too. God of Mischief is going to move ever so slightly and neatly in for Cap's invisible boundary to allow Shikigami to keep fighting this, but the eliminations are not coming through as the sustain is going to come in from both sides. Freedom Charge is going to allow Shikigami to take this fight a little bit more into the faces of Reason Gaming, who have tried to shift the spawns around. They're going to use their own Freedom Charge to keep this fight going. There's 6 players all on the point for Reason Gaming, and Shikigami might be starting to run out of fuel here if it wasn't for the Let the Devil Out. Unfortunately, they lose on one of their frontliners as it's going to be the Dino going down, and even some of the health packs are going to be needed to keep the sustain going for Shikigami. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. They have to survive, and they have to give up the objective. Finally, Reason Gaming get the point, and they flip it over.
But look at the point % that Reason are up against. They have to make the damage boost pocket on this Phoenix work, because if they let Shiki build up ultimates in long-drawn fights, they'll just be able to rotate to point, threatening a back cap with the Cap, and then force Reason to have to take the fight when they don't have ultimates to be able to match. This is absolutely a duel of power between Simba and Leolas at the moment.
See who blinks first between the celestial beings, and Simba's actually trying to go for the hunt, see if he can actually confirm an elimination, but gets caught in the terrain, and it seemed like whoever he was after managed to slip out into the engagement. Means that Leolas has a bit more of a clear shot. He's able to at least get the hits on, but he can't quite get the picks, or at least the sparks to connect. Trying to take some of that fighting engagement over. His full focus is going to be on the Devil Dinosaur as an easy target to make sure that these sparks keep hitting, and when it's 2 dinosaurs fighting against each other on this setup, it feels like whoever's going to be the one to be going down might spell disaster for his team, but Reason Gaming are holding on. Rampage is now going to be used as Rose has managed being able to pick it up, and Lindstrom has to go for the God of Mischief copy. Cap has hers available ready in hand when it starts to drop out, so the duration is going to provide a lot for Reason Gaming. With their triple strategist, how did they find a pick outside of these big ultimates from Simba? It seems that nobody's going to go down in these fights as the Venn diagram has been drawn for us on Warrior Falls, and Rampage is now going to start to come in from Kaya's side. Everybody's forced back from Reason, but they have their own ultimate to go in off the Mantis, so this whole gravy train keeps flowing.
Yeah, and we'll get the matchup of Freedom Charge Mirror Ultimates as well, coming from both of the Captain Americas, as Reason are about to hit last fight territory. Simba's been able to scout out where Easter is, trying to put some of this pressure. Good Guardian Shield is called, and Rosa to be able to go put even more pressure on the Vanguard and force the ultimate early, which means that Relaxing just uses their ultimate to be able to match, and Passflow now gets the only sustainability ultimate to hold on through against Shiki's pushing powers of the Ensong Inferno. Leolas takes Rashid down though, and Reason now are reduced to just the Mantis and the Fox Heals.
Yeah, Leyless has managed to build up his ultimate a lot faster than Simba and actually get to pick for his troubles too, as Frost Mountain wants to try to go in and clear out any stray members of Reason Gaming now that they're starting to dwindle in numbers. There might even be the portal play required from Rash, as the point still needs to flip in favor from Shikigami. It does flip just in time, but it means that overtime is going to be at least confirmed and a bit more of a window for Reason Gaming. They want to go for this portal, but they want to make sure that they have the numbers in order to do so, because they're expecting big of AoE ultimates. These big circles has let the devil out, has forced everybody back through from Reason Gaming, tried to retreat, tried to escape. You're not getting far. Frost Mountain claps on through Reason Gaming, and that's just point one.
Okay, this... With these comps, this is going to be a very, very long, brawl-heavy domination round. I mean, huge play to Reason. The fact that they were able to actually sustain through 2 casts of Invisible Boundary with only the match of 1, even though they don't have the Loki regeneration domain to hold their space up against it, is truly showing how good they are at cycling those base cooldowns, and really importantly as well, not giving fully up on point presence, with one of their Vanguard players always being able to anchor that position, and they'll double down on that. Pathlow has had enough of playing aggressive into the backline. He's just going to now try and supply rushdown potential. Help the front line so you can overwhelm Kaya.
Lindstrom not being eliminated says a lot, I think. Reason Gaming not having the dive to chase down some of these more heal-centric strategists in the backline. Feels like Lindstrom is managing to get away as much as he possibly can. It's 9 eliminations in favor of Reason Gaming to 16 for Shikigami. So they're managing to find the picks. A lot of those were in that first engagement, so you have to feel that this first fight is going to be just as important.
Yeah, well, Reason did not really have a lot of avenue for peel outside of just the strategists and the duelist, right? So Pasawo being on the cap was always playing in Shiki's side of the map, was not able to really bail the rest of his team out. Now he has the opportunity to do both. He can play aggressive on the front, or he can play close to the backline and try and babysit when Isidore and Frostmine can show up to play. And as Kaya comes on through with the Rampage, Rosa will go for the match. Lindstrom, though, holding the winning cards truly. God of Mischief just waiting to be popped from Shikigami, and they'll be able to hold off on it yet with the regeneration domain, which means that Reason have to give up yet more time.
Able to actually go for the copy, which means that Kath's going to have this ultimate if this fight wants to go on a little bit further, but that one elimination seems to have spelt the end for Reason Gaming wanting to fight this one. Similar story to the first point of this objective, as we're in the Science Institute, and the rest of Reason Gaming not able to completely escape. It's going to be a bloodbath as the picks are found and Shikigami banks some more ultimates for their troubles.
They'll be relentless too. Like, they know that Reason will have Invisible Boundary, but if you can force that on rotation before Reason are actually on point, Shiki will just be able to have the rest of the team disengage it, and Kath potentially does not even need to use her ultimate to be able to match. So Isto's already being very aggressive. Layla's waiting on the off angle for the amount of disruption this Captain America can potentially sow the seeds of into Reason's comp, as they'll go up onto the high ground, trying to get as close as possible to the point to be able to get good use of the Invisible Boundary when the fight goes long. There's the Ensong Inferno paired with the slow of Invisible Boundary to be able to match the potential sustainability of the Soul Resurgence, but Shiki's already lost the Dino, which means that Reason are pulling ahead of this fight. Ensong Inferno erupts as Frost Mountain tried to make a hero interception moment to keep his backline up.
He needed to find something whilst Reason Gaming are trying to put the point over. It's still in hands of Shikigami, and it was that only elimination that went up against Kaya. Freedom Charge for Isidore might struggle to keep him alive now, as he's pretty low on HP, but he hasn't gone down. There's no follow-through for Reason Gaming right now, as the regeneration domain is going to be used from Lindstrom, who I think has still not been eliminated, able to survive in the chaos, and now he's got a giant fox running at him potentially, seeing how these giant animals try to fight Alfred Scrap, and because he's on the low ground, Braxing is a little bit more stressed as he's unable to actually fight in that team engagement.
Shiki will give up 0%, fish potentially for a late pick from Leolaz, with just the damage potential onto Reason Squishies when they're holed up on the high ground, because it's one fight territory away with how long some of these fights have been going, and Reason don't yet have ultimates. So Shiki have to be very careful the poke that they're doing. Reason also have to be very careful the poke damage that Simba does right now, because Kath and Lindstrom will just be fishing, baiting the damage so they can channel it into strategist ultimates and walk uncontested onto the objective to force Reason to match up into a brawl they simply cannot afford to survive.
And it's a case of trying to work out where this Daredevil is from Frost Mountain as he's moving his way through. There's the, again, across the sky approach with the end song Infernos. We're seeing a lot more tech really start to be used from these teams to get the most out of these ultimates, but it doesn't lead to an elimination, but it does lead to Shikigami losing one in the end, as Simba might be able to put a little bit more pressure on. Might not even be needed with that ultimate just hovering around the 95% mark, as all of Shikigami have to go down. They have to reset as the honors are looking a bit more even.
Yeah, that's a crucial fight win for Reason. That means that Rashad will be able to have Invisible Boundary to match Cafs, and we've already seen from the last fight on Falls that Reason have more than enough sustainability and just playing their positions on point, bouncing the control of it to be able to match up into the Loki double copy. Frost Mountain scouting out, wanting to put the pressure on with Let the Devil Out to potentially force the Invisible Boundary early, which means that Shiki will be able to hold off in the long-term fight.
Rampage is going to start off this engagement for Shikigami that are looking to try to dive on in and keep this bunkered through. Frost Mountain isn't going to go for an avenue or a flank. He's just tried to block some of this damage back at the enemies of Reason Gaming setup. It's a little bit hard to preach. Isidore is actually going to be the one that gets eliminated in this case. Now Shikigami starting to look a little bit more flummoxed with the ultimates required, as Let the Devil Out is going to be used alongside this Visible Boundary to make sure that this is a strong area for Shikigami to keep on fighting on this point. Still in favor of Reason Gaming though, however, and that wick is starting to burn at a pretty scary pace now. Invisible Boundary from Cap has now been dedicated. This tandem of ultimates has worked for the most part of keeping Shikigami going, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter all that much this time around, as Simba is absolutely churning through the numbers, lighting up the elimination feed is Rosa this time. However, the freedom charge used from Isidore unfortunately gets off the point as we go to point 3.
Yeah, we take off and head to Stellar Spaceport, as honestly, recent swapping to the EMEA has breathed new life into not just their front line, but their back line as well. Like, so many times they were getting picks off onto Shiki's dive before the dive could actually get the space to be able to commit. Frost Mountain knows the information of where Reason are playing, but Reason also get the heads up of knowing that there's a Daredevil headed towards them, so no one splits off and isolates themselves to make an easy target. They all just stack up and play counter dive, with both the Invis, the Mantis, and the White Fox all having CC to last through the duel and keep each other up.
10 final hits for Simba. I mean, it was not even that many eliminations on the side for Reason Gaming in that first point, because it seemed that nobody went down. But once Reason Gaming could set up and be comfortable, positioning seemed to really matter a lot too, right? Like, it just felt like their comfort in that space was good, which is going to be very key going on Spaceball.
Yeah, Calf, I won't imagine will be sticking on the Jeff. This is likely just going to be speed bubbles to get out of spawn, and then back onto the Invisible Woman you go. And there it is. The big thing for Shiki right now is that they have the end song Inferno. Relaxing does have Kumeho Unleashed, but Leila's will absolutely torch that ultimate in one fell swoop if it does not get melted by Simba.
These first fights have mattered a lot, and Reason Gaming have lost all of them so far, at least able to turn it around on the Institute of Science, point 2, but the first point, very much not the case whilst it was flipped. Nocta going down very early though, as Frost Mountain actually has a lot of space to go in for these dives and try to hit from the various different paths. It's going to be traded out in the end, as it seems that Simba's really started to come alive. If he can win this head-to-head against Leila's, it would do a lot in this fight, as Reason Gaming very close to taking a point for the first time. As the end song hits onto multiple, it's not going to matter too much. Shikigami have to back up. They want to try and reset if they can, and Reason Gaming for the first time take the point first.
And these fights have gone long in the past, which means likely around 50%, even more potentially, picked up on the side of Reason, especially if they can play Simba. You can see him here just checking those off angles. There's one-sided Daredevil available for Shikigami, so Reason have to go through the scouting stages of marking each individual lane to keep their backline safe and match up to where Frost Mountain could play.
It's interesting, Shikigami have changed up this composition, feeling like a pivot to another Vanguard like the Emma Frost is not going to do too much. It's done plenty for Reason Gaming, and they're 2/3 of the way of building up that Sonic Seduction. Trying to sort of scarp and make sure that these dive Vanguards aren't going to get much, and the Cedo goes down while Shikigami are trying to set up. They're trying to open up this area of the objective to see if they can get a little bit more, but all they have found is gaps to be exploited, as Reason Gaming seem to have just churned all the way right through Shikigami, and they're forced to reset again.
I mean, they're just melting the cap, which means means that Shiki's dive has no threat to it. The cap's not creating space, you're not occupying the attention of the strategists long enough for Easter to be able to make a move on Basilo, who is just stalwart on the objective as that Emma Frost. Shikigami do have ults to be able to play with. Kaya off of the cap goes to the Venom, so more back cap potential, shielding as well, but it leans, well, less space created for Frost Mountain when he tries to find the opening in the back line, and he falls for it.
Seems that this setup has been so good for Reason Gaming once they have the freedom to actually push out, and Frost Mountain has struggled to actually close that distance to make things a lot more chaotic. Kai switching over towards Venom. It's late in the day, you could say, as it's the only change that Shikigami have wanted to have made so far, and looking at these ultimates, it's about to get a little bit more turbulent over on the port, as Reason Gaming are sat back on two big ultimates. The side of seduction is going to be used first to sort of almost stop Shikigami to go and fight this one. There's the copy. It seems that Shikigami have made this play multiple times, but it hasn't amounted to too much, as it's both of these Ensong Infernos held in hand from Leolus and Simba, because neither want to use it, whilst these strategists are still in play with this amount of sustain. Paso not going to get much off the back of this ultimate. He's trying to find a focus over onto the Venom, as Kaya struggled to get little. He's got even less this time, as this fight could be major, as there comes the Ensongs after these ultimates have started to come through, but neither have led to any elimination. Shikigami still don't have the numbers on point, as it's going to be a little bit later in the day for Kaya to actually go and fight this, but Leolus has found the trade in the other side. Pasuo is the one missing. Rampage now for Rosa is going to be joined alongside the Fox, as the ground is about to shake. The foundations of Reason Gaming's domination run might lead all the way to this, as Shikigami are still losing out on the numbers. There's very little to work with. Feast of the Abyss has to be used from Kaya to just keep himself alive for a little bit longer, but it is only seconds. Reason Gaming find themselves a reverse sweep, and Shikigami lose on Benim.
It's the safest choice as well from Reason to use both Dino and Kumeho ults when you get them, because playing retake into the composition that Shiki has, you might not even be able to get back onto the point with your whole team intact to be able to take a 6 versus 6.
See you in a few as we see where the series is going.
We are undefeatable!
Lead your allies with grace, but spare no mercy for those who cross you. You can now command the battlefield in style with Iron Man's Iron Samurai and Mandus's Mandy Celestine the Greeter's costume. You can leave your mark forever etched into eternity. Those are available right now. So head on into game, heed the call of glory. It's time to show them what you're made of. Just as Reason have shown us what they're made of, taking that first map versus Shikigami in the closest game we've had today and one of the closest series we have had all of stage 1, Ryan.
It's pretty much what you would want to see, and like Shikigami, we expect them to be sort of favorites to make playoffs, right? With a third place finish in preseason and a group without First Pro and now V, you would say the Shikigami should be making it. It would be crazy not to. But Reason Gaming had an awful preseason. It was turbulent with the amount of roster changes they made, but now starting to find their feet. The meta's been a little bit awkward for them to deal with, but they have actually found themselves First Blood here.
First Blood is exactly what they got, and having a look at the MVP, it was kind of tough to decide who it was because there was, as Moxie mentioned earlier, a really impactful Emma swap that did some great work. The strategists on the backline were doing huge, but Simba just making sure that Captain America had the worst day of his life since he went into the ice, it was just too much, Moxie.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to see a Phoenix or a Mantis ban in the future cards of map 2, which I feel like if you're Reason, you're sort of happy about because that does free up other avenues, things like the Loki that we've already said. And I think, like, for me, we got to see what basically a week of time between week 2 and week 3 has allowed Reason to be able to pull off because they looked a lot more comfortable, they looked a lot more coordinated when it came to Stellar Spaceport, to the point that Simba was just getting so much freedom to be able to do what he wanted with the damage boost and truly make it count.
Yeah, Ryan, even in the last series, we saw Reason as well when they went against the Chosen Ones. Their trajectory coming into this, their level of improvement, even though they had a solid start to the season as well, taking the 2-0 versus Fire, but then losing 2-0 to Heretics, but it feels like they're just getting stronger and stronger.
I mean, yeah, you'd expect to sort of see that because you haven't got like these roster changes in, but you've also like found Simba that played a little bit in preseason, but not all that much. He's now really cemented himself as a strong duelist to sort of involve. Nocta's become a lot more flexible, and with triple strategist looks good. But also like Rashid and Relaxin, like they've come in as this backline, and it felt so hard to actually get a pick on the side of Shikigami. Frost Mountain is an exceptional daredevil, but he couldn't find those openings with how well played Reason Gaming were, with how they positioned and coordinated off of each other. It was stellar work.
I mean, before we swap off these stats, I just want to draw everyone's attention to the damage disparity between Rosa and Isidore. And I guarantee you that came through when Passaway swapped to Emma, because it meant that instead of Isidore having to go up into the Dino matchup, you also had to deal with an Emma. And something else that's also very interesting, Leolaz did not have the Mantis, so no damage boost, but he actually outmatched Simba's damage by 10,000. The difference is that Simba's was obviously very concentrated instead of going on to targets who got healed up by the triple strategist line from Reason.
You can actually see this in the damage blocked. Rosa, 88k damage blocked, the majority just being sieged in from Leolaz. Whereas Kaya, who was on the Captain America sometimes and on the Venom later on, 81k, because they were just being bullied as well. Both times they were trying to put the pressure on, the Phoenixes were bullying them as best as they could. As such, Reason take the lead in this series. It's going to be Shikigami's map choice to try and bring it back to a 1-1. Ryan, where would you like to see Shikigami take us, and why is it Museum of Contemplation or Hall of Jalia?
It's absolutely not Museum of Contemplation, but Reason Gaming will be happy for that as well. I mean, they went for stuff like Symbiotic Surface, like at points too. So, like, Shikigami are not afraid to get weird with it with their choices. But outside of that, you got Central Park. They're going for Spider Islands, which we haven't seen so far in EMEA in Stage 1. They want to force Reason Game to somewhere a little bit more unprepared.
We love to see it. We love a little bit of variety, and this is a map where we've seen some very interesting stuff from them in the past. Will this be enough for Shikigami to get themselves back into the series, or will Reason Gaming be able to close this out? We're heading into game number 2 with your casters, Ryan Central and Godboxing.
Reason Gaming haven't played Spider Islands at all, and going back to the playoffs for Shikigami, well, they beat Heretics on it, and they lost against Heretics on it. And I remember, sorry, Tanuki, you've had a good day so far. I remember Tanuki falling off the map a couple of times as well. So there's always that to watch out for. If you're Frost Mountain for the draft, it seems Devil Dinosaur is going back to being that Protect with the first ban. And Reason Gaming definitely don't want to let Frost Mountain get his hands on Black Cat either.
Yeah, I will say going Spider Islands does open the door for a lot of different comps. Like Dive still very, very strong. Roll very, very strong, especially on the amount of like first points you're going to be fighting 6 versus 6 on main. You also do have to worry potentially about flyers like Ultron, Star-Lord, Torch coming through, plus this being a convoy. You've obviously got the free Adam strategies with the Loki, as we are absolutely flying through the draft. And Reason get that rocket, which means that Shikigami, do they ban out the Loki here, or do they target the Star-Lord that the rocket will be able to empower?
There's so many like flying options, I think, with how you could play this first point in the air. But yeah, Mantis has been banned out, so there's no one-sidedness for Reason Gaming. They feel that that's important and don't want to actually allow the side of, in this case, for like Reason Gaming, if they're going to try and play around like a triple strategist composition with the rocket, that they're not going to get the access to Jean Grey, and it's going to be one-sided.
Mantis banned from Reason, I'm expecting now. One-sided Phoenix with Mantis damage boost, not a fun concept to have to fight into, especially because Loki Groot are all still currently available. So what do Reason decide to remove? Luna Snow. Okay, so Shikigami get the Mantis through, but this is the crucial thing, right? They had Mantis open in the last round, but they did not play it. So potentially Reason think it's actually more valuable banning out the Luna, because Shiki would absolutely play both the Luna and the White Fox to be able to get the full 3 lots of CDs to be able to charm your counter dives, while knowing that there's less likely an option of a Mantis coming on through from Shikigami, or it baits them onto the Ultron line, the way that Reason got baited onto that exact composition all the time ago that they matched up versus Heretics.
Yeah, I think like when you expect the 2-2 to maybe come out on the side of Shikigami, which Frost Mountain is already on the Daredevil, so it makes sense. Last time that we saw Spider Islands action in EMEA was pre-season, and we saw a lot of Wolverine, who we've seen very little of so far. So maybe it's just swapping like one melee character out for another, as it is going to be the side of Shikigami attacking first on their map choice.
Yeah, looks like Reason are going full stall strats. I saw Adam, I saw Loki, we're doing double res cycle. We might not full hold, but we'll make the time bank hurt when we head to the later stages of this map. As Simba denied the burst DPS carry of Phoenix, we'll go for the duelist second best option of the Elsa.
Shikigami hoping to try to bring this to a full best-of-3 series and confirm a spot in the playoffs. Reason Gaming 1 foot in the door already. Seeing if they can get the job done today instead of leaving it up to other results. Nocta, yeah, is on the Adam Warlock. Like we've seen teams move away from him naturally, and already they seem to have lost Simba that was over the Elsa. The composition's an odd one, but Reason Gaming losing out on their main damage deal is not going to look good. The Vera back was also used up, so it means that there's a few more players that have to make that trek.
Well, Soul Bond comes through from Nocta, so Reason can try and walk forward and at least part ways on the objective to be able to stall it out for Simba to get the strange portal swap coming on through.
Cancelled.
And he did, yep. He cancelled.
He did that. Yep, he did. He didn't ult in spawn, but he's deciding against it. But it was cancelled, so it's got to go on cooldown, right?
I guess they're worried about being stuck on Strange against the Dino, who just gets, like, absolutely munched for breakfast. As you're going to be running the Zootopia backline, Rocket to be able to set up Nocta, who's now moved on to the Starlord, and playing very split, which means that when Hand of Country comes through from Cross Mountain, it's likely just going to be on the point itself to clear Reason's presence off of contesting.
And Frost Mountain's been taken out on the Moon Knight, so one of those big deposits of damage is unavailable. But Leolis has been absolutely feasting with the picks that he's been able to grab up. Simba, however, Bareback means that Daredevil is going to be back into the fray as Nocta's switching over towards the Star-Lord. Has found himself a neat and tidy too. The barrage is going to try and connect on, but you've got the Venom trying to chase from Kaya. He's going to try to out-sustain this engagement and just dash out of the fray if he can, but he's immediately met by Simba that's trying to claw a good chunk out of him and try to protect whatever time is left, because Reason Gaming struggled on the start of this map. They found their footing.
Well, the teleport cancel means that Reason aren't stuck on a composition that they would not otherwise want to play, especially since you've got Galactic Legend and Shiki swapping their strategists now means that you don't have a defensive ultimate against this. So out comes Galactic Legend. Reason tries to fend it off with some of the Dino bubble, but Lindstrom just gets caught so far away from the rest of his team, he goes down.
But Cedar, he just tanked so much of that Galactic Legend, and now we might actually have to try to Scarper to get out of the way. His Rampage is going to allow Cedar to find that pick. Layla's almost using the Ensong Inferno as a disengage, not to go for the picks themselves, as there seems to be that advantage now leaning for Shikigami on the attacking side. Simba's back into the fray, but just as he gets involved in the fight, they lose out on Rose that just got the Rampage in hand. Shikigami now finding a couple of picks to stitch together, but it's completely fallen apart at the frays as now Nocta and Simba being able to fight back. Reason Gaming are making this a very messy first point, and Shikigami's early advantage that they had seems to be switching towards the other side. They're actually able to get the point over this first checkpoint, however, but a good portion at least bought up for the time back.
Yeah, that might have been a different outcome if Paso had been able to come through a freedom charge, but potentially he went down before it was built. Maybe Calf was able to come on through the Spectral Surge Charm to take him down before the ultimate could be used, but we will head into second portion of Spider Islands. Nocta tasked with clearing the high ground so that Leolaz is not able to hold his position, and Kaya gets fully cleared on out, won't be able to hit into the strategist to try to force some of those resources before the fight begins. Reason slowly taking all of the space back. Freedom Charge going to allow them to run straight at Shikigami, but no overextension, which means that Nocta is going to be able to use teleport to flank fully into Shiki's back line with very little punishment.
You got Sham though, I think, and there's the leap in from Frost Mountain as Reason Gaming would try to set up with the aggressive freedom charge. He didn't force out any ultimates for Shikigami. Instead waited for them to get comfortable and then led them in right into the trap. So the fight has gone very nicely for Shikigami. Reason Gaming losing out on their vanguards multiple times, switching over towards the Venom to have that Rashid team up with the Jeff. Now, Reason Gaming wants to sort of build some ultimates to try and go in for this fight.
Well, it will be engaged with Galactic Legend or Rampage to force Invis Boundary. Shiki have to give up space. If they use Invis Boundary now, Nocta will get his ultimate through for free. Clutch teleport off of the Rocket team up iframe means that Nocta survives, but Rosa has fallen. Reason tried to commit. Invis Boundary's already off the table, but I think they have to wait for that Dino before they fully decide to use the Starlord ult.
There's the Galactic Legend sleeping through. You got the Buddy Barrier trying to block some of this damage, and even the leaping from Frost Mountain to try to mitigate it, force himself as the target. And it might have actually pulled some space for Shikigami, as Leyless has been finding these eliminations in the neutral perfectly. Reason Gaming were banking on this ultimate to find a lot, and they lose both their duelist with very little to deal with it. And the teleport was able to be used, at least for Nocta, to keep himself alive. But everybody else is starting to drop now, as Kyle Lindstrom lighting up the elimination feed. Back is going to be expended. There's no chance in hell for Reason to stall this one out again as we move on to third.
I mean, Reason just don't have enough damage to be able to punch through the strategist sustain of Shiki's backline. Both the Rocket and the Jeff, like Jeff healing not a lot, Rocket ultimate more about fueling aggression, and without the Phoenix you don't have the one-shot potential paired with Ensong, so they're swapping away from it. Relaxing goes on to Loki instead. Passwell back onto the EMEA, since it worked so well last map at being able to shut down Eastor's rampages, as Nocta moves on to the Bucky, trying to punish Shikigami when they stack up, but also play counter against both the Daredevil and the Venom.
Nocturne's a jump onto Frost Mountain whilst he's trying to go for these flanks again, but it seems that every elimination that Reason get is either traded or added onto from Shikigami at this point. Isidor's taking a lot of damage, so Feast of the Abyss is going to be used to try to pull back these strategists, to box them in and try to protect each other, and now Let the Devil Out is going to try and make the concentrated affair a little bit more into Shikigami, that use a giant box of Camille Unleashed as a response, which then provides the Cosmic Yarn Amplifier, which then provides the Ensong Inferno. These teams are so intimate with each other, they almost know the next moves at this point. Invisible Boundary for Shikigami is going to allow this attacking side to keep this progression moving, but Psychic Seduction might pull everybody right into the teeth and claws of Rosa, as a Rampage is now starting to catapult this way right into Shikigami. The front line and back line, it's all mashed into one. They're in a tight hallway to try to fight this engagement, and Simba has absolutely found and unleashed his way through it. Unfortunately, however, Shikigami have brought it back into their favor again. Like the Devil Out from Frost Mountain, it's almost being kept in stock as Reason just find no way to go into this engagement with Nocta switching over towards the Winter Soldier.
I mean, BRB brings him back, so he's fully on the front line in position to use the Kraken Impact. Problem is that Shiki just are not playing in a position for him to get on top of, so he uses it defensively against the dive. Trooper's Fist comes on through. Frost Mountain unable to use any mobility. Someone's got to get on point. Reason desperately trying to put their players into it. You can see Rosa with the Buddy Barrier just trying to hold the space as Nocta desperately turns around to fend Kaya off. Frost Mountain's coming back on the Iron Fist of all things to be able to use the health percentage damage and the mobility of the character to Shiki to refresh their numbers and match up against Reason's proximity of spawn.
I've never seen a case of just spamming hold, but Reason Gaming are doing their best. The Amplifier is going to help with only 20 seconds left. The Beer Back is going to be forced out early as Passero is the one to go down. So Shikigami, what ultimates do you have to bank on with? You've got the Invisible Boundary that's going to keep this fight going, but you're really waiting for Leyless to use this Ensong Inferno. He was just a bit shy of actually being able to match this Yarn Amplifier, which is why it was respected so much. Hoping for the hooks to get the picks in the Invisible Boundary and pull them into scary areas when you've got the regeneration domain used out. But there's Frost Mountain with the Iron Fist, finds one, finds himself onto the other as Passero is the next to go down. Ensong Inferno is going to slam down onto the objective, and Reason Gaming run out of steam. Shikigami on their map choice push it all the way to third.
Yeah, Cosmic Yarn Amplifier just comes through a slight bit too soon, and Shiki just full disengage. They know as well that they'll be able to push before Relaxing gets God of Mischief up because they're ready to go. They've already got Invisible Boundary, so you don't have to do this like weird exchange of poke, which means that while you're also doing damage to build up your ultimates, you're allowing Relaxing to come that much closer to having God of Mischief and potentially catching a copy onto the Invisible Boundary itself. So very smart stuff coming on through from Shiki, but Reason yet again, like they're looking like they're adapting fairly quickly to what Shiki have put up against them. The Bucky swap coming on through was working very well at being able to shut down both the Venom and the Daredevil. It was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Shiki swapping to Iron Fist and shredding through Reason's whole front line. If they can't get the picks onto the strategists, keep them distracted and take the Vanguards down instead.
Well, the last time that we saw Shikigami playing on this map, they pushed the map to the end on their attacking side and then full held it on first on their defense. This was against Team Heretics. This was against who we just saw is having a grand old time. but it's consistently been able to get its way towards the second point of this map. Reason Gaming, we haven't seen them play at all, and with all of the roster changes, it's hard to even look at the data if there was any from preseason. But they're going to try and go for this play with the Ultron, Nocta up in the sky. Triple Strategist didn't go well for them, but they want to set up Simba on the Elsa to hope to do a little bit more than last time.
Let's see how well this Ultron fares into the hit scan coming on through from Leolas. As Nocta is going to have to take just full advantage of all of the terrain, the rooftops that Spider Islands provides as additional cover using those drones, just buoying up the defenses of the dive so that Password can hold his position as long as possible.
So far, he's been pretty much unscathed, but the rest of his team, you can see, like, the drones are demanding a lot from him, and he has to watch where this Venom is going to try and focus, and making sure that his intent, I suppose, of keeping his team alive isn't going to lead with anybody going down. But Kea, in this engagement against Rosa, the trade-out's working in favor. Nocta being able to switch up to the offensive means that he finds that pick onto Frost Mountain. Great space, and Shikigami losing out these numbers in this way means that they have to disengage. There's not going to be any, like, quick resets. They just have to group up and let this point almost push to the end of first.
I mean, Reason could just play maps, right? Closer spawn for attack, BRB for relaxing. Any player trade that comes on through from Reason is going to be that much more painful for Shiki, but what will be truly painful for the Ultron is Frost Mountain swap. Off of the Daredevil, who we saw was going for the Invisible Woman, onto the Star-Lord to be able to take the 1v1 in the sky.
Nocta's not afraid of those odds in the end. Simba going down, though, is going to force out that beer back, like you mentioned, allowing Reason Gaming to keep this tempo alive on this attacking side. But now you're looking at ultimates. Rage of Ultron is about to be available for Nocta. You'd imagine that he's going to use it straight away. No matter the occasion, it's not a bad ultimate to be having. But you also have the Apex Predator, and a very big drop-off on the other side. It's going to pull all of these players through right into the Rage of Ultron. It strings together like poetry for Reason Gaming, and Shikigami is starting to lose the numbers and lose first.
Oh, Ultron just recites prose of ultimate economy right there. Frost Mountain swapping to the Star-Lord, which resets his ult economy down to 50%, means that Nocta, safe to use Rage of Ultron against the Star-Lord, knows Galactic Legend won't be there to win the rock, paper, scissors matchup, and Reason are able to very quickly clear through first. Lindstrom is still holding on to Invisible Boundary, but Rashad now has the ultimate to be able to match it, and Reason can force it early with Feast of the Abyss if they can get Paso into the back line.
Frost Mountain's trying to build up that ultimate. He's pushed away from the force physics. It's going to be forced out. It's going to be available literally now with just how often these Invisible Women are able to get this ultimate. But Invisible Boundary is one of the key things that is looking silo in the neutral. However, Nocta has got Frost Mountain's name in his back pocket. He has absolutely shut him up. And the Rampage is now leading Reason to keep this momentum going in a colossal sense. Rampage is going to be trading on both sides of the Devil Dinosaur, and Invisible Boundary from Shikigami is trying to hold on to this defense. Any form of, like, picks that you can find is going to be major. And Shikigami are using everything that they have to just find something to honor the numbers, but they found very little.
Yeah, Reason go for a combo Cosmic on Amplifier, boosting the damage of Feast of the Abyss. Leolas uses Endsong to be able to break it. Rashad, though, still has Invisible Boundary to be able to defend against Frost Mountain's Galactic Legend. So Reason can hold that position on the objective while still putting pressure on Shiki Squishies, forcing Frost Mountain to have to deal with the Venom as opposed to getting on top of the Ultron, who's about to hit his ult again.
He's pulled people in, but there's no eliminations or ultimate to actually try to turn these CC'd enemies into picks. The Rage of Ultron a little bit later on, but you've unfortunately lost Rashid whilst the Kamiho Unleashed is going through. Able to potentially trade it, might be able to actually disengage at this rate. So somehow, some way, Cap manages to survive, and Lindstrom actually finds a pick for their trouble up against Rosa. Reason Gaming have had to give up this point where they were building up the momentum so nicely. They've lost complete control of second. They're back to their original spawn.
How well does the Ultron do now that the Star-Lord has enough proximity to be able to get on top of you and look for the one clips into auto reload with Stellar Shift? There's the switch that we expected to see at some point as Frost Mountain yet again sees that he isn't tasked with keeping on top of Ultron for his duty, turns back to look at Passimo, who's gone all the way behind Shiki and put pressure on the objective to allow Reason the space to be able to walk freely out from those chokes and into the open space to have a little bit more room to be able to play with as Frost Mountain right-click into Blaster Barrage, takes the 1v1 and wins the Star-Lord mirror.
It was weird to just see the fight happening on the ground like it was more of a bar brawl on the streets of Spider Islands, I guess. But it is Frost Mountain Starlord that wins out in the end. Reason Gaming not trying to back off, instead of going fully loaded in with a Feast of the Abyss followed by the Iron Amplifier. There's the combination. Laelis wants to try to get as many of these deployables out of range for Reason Gaming to use as possible. And there seems to be no more eliminations coming in on the side of Reason Gaming. They're sort of awkwardly trying to disengage with like more than a minute on the clock. Reason are like, we have some good ultimate. We just need to make sure that we don't build up shikis now.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a reset. Reason know that they have good countermeasures against Galactic Legend from Frost Mountain. They have the Apex Predator. They can engage forward with Rosa's Rampage. Shiki have no good answer to it currently, except just going first with ultimates of their own, which is why we're seeing Rochette being very cautious, wanting to get into a good position to use that invisible boundary onto his front line as opposed to fully situated on his back line. So Reason still have a little bit of forward space to be able to make a play off of, with Buddy Barrier from Rosa moving the team forward and Nocta getting into a position to use Galactic Legend. Calf gets the Kumeho Unleashed online just in time though, which means that this should not be finding eliminations unless someone's out of position.
Now it's no trades happening for the Galactic Legends. The Strategist Ultimates were used and built just in time. We've got another Feast of the Abyss from Kai this time to keep the sustain going through the Rampage that is Rosa the Dinosaur. And Nocta now just on the ground, seeing if he could just lead some eliminations, because for Reason again, it seems that it started to dry up a little bit more as the stall has been superb from Shikigami to actually hold on and contest. But that hold on second might be coming to its natural conclusion, but overtime has been reached and hit. Nocta has to find something. He's way off of having that Galactic Legend again on his side, whereas Laelis has got the Ensong Inferno, and there's now a portal required. Attack aside for Reason Gaming, unless we're going to a map 3, they want to try to push this all the way to the ends of Spider Islands. Ensong can't be blocked in the end as Relaxing Sky is going to come crashing down to the ground as the wick starting to burn through. You've got Reason Gaming able to at least touch with the portal, but Shikigami just have too much to deal with. An invisible boundary to top it off as we go to map 3.
It's very fitting that Shikigami rise from the ashes off of the Phoenix one-sided save coming through from their end. And we go to a full 3-map series between these two to finally see Immovable Object to Unstoppable Force who will buckle and take their first defeat in Group B.
Hey guys, my name is Ryan Central and welcome back to What's the Meta. We're more than halfway through the group stages of Stage 1 across the Ignite globe at this point, and the meta footprint that Devil Dinosaurs left us has settled somewhat, so according to the data, what are the teams discovering? We have to talk about what stayed the same, and the top two kings of the meta are still exactly the same. Gambit is pretty much the priority when it comes to a first ban. We don't get to see him. I think we've spoken about him enough, we all know why. And Devil Dinosaur is still number 2. Teams are protecting Devil Dinosaur because everybody else is. The stats sort of line up that if you have Devil Dinosaur and the other team does not, you have a pretty decent win rate. So they're protecting Dino because when one team gets him, that team usually wins because he's so easy to incorporate into a composition. He's very good at shutting down some of the more like brittle duelists that want to be a little bit more divey. And so he's just a great character to sort of put in the middle of the map and honestly just build around. With the damage that he deals, the damage that he blocks, and just the way that he's able to stall and fight on objectives, yeah, Devil Dinosaur is pretty good and one of your mainstay vanguards for the time being. That's all standard. We could see that in the games that we saw last week, but what has actually changed? When it comes to big winners, there's none more so than Rocket Raccoon. He didn't just become more popular, Teams discover just how to win with him with how he plays. Obviously, he's been buffed over the last couple of seasons, is looking really good. The likes of Be Right Back as just an ability are very useful in these like long drawn out team fights where it gets hard to eliminate anybody because you've got the likes of Devil Dinosaur. Get a pick on Devil Dinosaur, or Be Right Back instantly brings him back into the fray. Yeah, it's going to be frustrating. The team up with Star-Lord is obviously very good because Star-Lord got buffed, and the fact that Rocket is very good with his survivability. The fact that a Daredevil or a Black Cat can jump on him, try to eliminate him, and he's able to sneak out goes to show a lot of what the strategists can do to make sure that they don't get picked off when it's important. Resource generation, the Iron Amplifier as an ultimate for just damage boost for everybody is a key thing to win out some of these long drawn out fights where there's so much sustain. And Rocket can put out a good amount of damage, but he can obviously put out a metric ton of healing too. So yeah, Rocket is one of the main winners when it comes to how much he is shot up the rankings when it comes to not only a protect priority, but also a ban priority too. And his win rate when one team gets him and the other one doesn't is pretty high. One of the highest that we've seen so far. Like almost 2/3 of the time high. So yeah, he's good. And because Rocket got stronger, one of the characters that benefits from him the most and is also a pretty good answer to him got stronger too, that being Phoenix, Jean Grey. She's very good at destroying the deployables with her ultimate. She benefits from Rocket's resources. Damage boost into a solo Jean Grey when you're running triple strategist is a great way to actually find eliminations in high sustain. And he just synergizes really well with Phoenix, as pretty much become one of the major options for a duelist outside of Star-Lord now that Elsa's sort of fallen out of the fray. And because these two have shot up in popularity, some of the other options that were trying to contest them have fallen down a little bit in the choice order. And one of the major ones actually for losers is Black Cat. She remains a popular hero for teams, but we're not seeing teams nearly spend as much like capital guaranteeing access to her. Her protect cost, she was a common like, we want to protect this character so it doesn't get banned. We're going to try and one-side it if we can. That hasn't really worked. Like the win rate is still pretty underwhelming, like under 50%. If a team gets Black Cat and the other team doesn't, they don't win the majority of the time because other stuff is banned out as an option. So Black Cat just isn't providing that much when it comes to the draft. It just seems that teams are still playing her, but they're like, there's no point protecting her because it just isn't that worth it. And also, we're not going to ban her because we want to get some of the other characters out that we've mentioned instead if we can. It just feels like Black Cat is fine, but she's not super strong that we need to get rid of her fine, or protect her in this case. She's just not been treated as a hero that you must secure. But she's not the only one that's sort of dropped down. Like White Fox's popularity has gone down, Captain America's popularity has gone down, Luna even, who's quite high up in the rankings, has dropped a good chunk, as has Ultron, who isn't seen half as much as before. Not because they're objectively worse characters, it's just because Rocket and Jean Grey are demanding a lot more attention from teams, and that sort of attention needs to come from somewhere. I am really curious to see what we see in like the last week of groups, considering at least for like EMEA in Americas, there's a month we're going to have Cyclops in the game when we get to stage 1 playoffs. So the meta is going to change a lot. So I'm excited to see what this last week of action is going to give us before we go into season 8.5. But I hope you found this interesting. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the action.
And we are back, and it's exactly what we hoped for, team. Spider Islands goes over to Shikigami, meaning that this, the series we were extremely excited about, is already sitting at 1-1. We get a very rare EMEA Game 3, but what a turnaround performance. We also saw the surprise appearance from Iron Fist. What a delightful day of seeing Iron Fist and Squirrel Girl and Black Panther all appearing in our games today. But overall, this was, while the defense from Reason looked really solid, it was Shikigami's defense on that second point, Moxie, that really seemed to lock it down.
Yeah, Endsong Inferno into every Cosmic Yawn Amplifier is rough, and then Phoenix being able to just like have so much damage as well. Like the moment you win one fight on Spider Island second, you have such a gauntlet as an attacking team to be able to make your approach to that point.
And Ryan, we're going to have a look at our MVP here, and as a fellow Leolaz enjoyer, we're not surprised to see this here. We had Simba last game, almost the exact same reasons. The tracking and those end songs were perfect.
it's just the amount of damage that you can put out. And like Layla's just knew the job description at that point. One-sided Phoenix, you're able to put out a good chunk of that damage. You got Frost Mountain doing a really good job of just switching to whatever would let Layla's have full control of the skies with the Star-Lord trading with Nocta. I also wanted to give a shout out to Kath because I think that White Fox was like pretty inspired and like, especially like down on the ground, there's so many battles happening in the air. Like, have you got the ability to out-sustain stuff like a Galactic Legend? And the answer is yes. Like, you got invisible boundaries on both sides, sure, but I think Kath had a lot of big ultimates that allowed it to go on for them on that defensive side when so many other teams would just run out of steam.
And we should bring that up. Kath is actually a new player to this roster. Name was the strategist originally, but is unavailable for this stage. So Kath has come on in and has fit perfectly into this composition.
Yeah, fitted seamlessly in, and I think that's always a worry when you try to slot a new strategist in, right? Because you have to work on your trust with the team, you have to work on your comms, potentially as well you've lost one of your main focuses of ult tracking, which can always be very rough for teams to then have to adapt around because ultimates are such a huge part of not just strategists' play, but also the whole teams. Like you've seen multiple times, chain reactions, one ultimate sets off, 5 more in response in these Brawl Fests.
Fact is, though, these defensive ultimates were extremely effective. The triple strategist we've been seeing from Reason Gaming, not available this time due to Shikigami's ban, but now it's Reason Gaming's map choice. And we're pretty used to seeing a Hall of Jalia as our map that would sort of fit into this, our convergence map. But there are still other options. We've all been sitting there of like, in the break, we're all sitting saying, if you have a trick strategy or something that you've prepared on Lower Manhattan, no one else has played it. What are the odds they have been preparing stuff on it? What are the odds that it's ready? If you have a wildcard to throw in there, now would be the time, especially in such an important matchup, right?
Yeah, we've seen Shikigami be very comfortable on a lot of like these convergence maps. That's why the Spider Islands was like an inspired choice, because it stops Reason Gaming from going over towards like the likes of like Museum, which they've picked a couple of times, but also like they've had decent midtowns in the past, they've had decent like Yggdrasils and such, right? So it pretty much forces them to like symbiotic service. We've already seen Shikigami like to play that map despite losing against Team Heretics on it. Jalia, everybody can play it, can be really uncomfortable. Central Park, both teams have played it. It's been decent, but you know that teams are prepared on it. Heart of Heaven, maybe. Shin Shibuya, maybe, plus if you're crazy. Manhattan, maybe, plus if you're crazy, plus if you want to make it fun. Because, yeah, Manhattan is just such a hard map, and Convergence seems to have basically just monogamized into one map choice, which is Jalia or Central Park right now.
Well, you can't really go Central Park because Shikigami in preseason were like undefeated on that map. They were so good at playing Central Park and full holding. They full held Na'Vi on that map with Ultron Torch.
Oh,
here it is. We are going to...
Come on, Lower Manhattan.
Lower Manhattan!
Amazing.
Let's go, Reason. Reason have decided with they're not their life on the line. There's still a solid chance they go through playoffs. Like, this is the time to get a higher seed. And if you have something prepared, now is the time. For the first time in EMEA history, we are going to Lower Manhattan. And I am not going to waste any of your time. We're going to get into that draft as soon as possible. We've got Moxie and Ryan Central bringing you all the action.
What if they made your favorite character that you want to see in Marvel Rivals a payload? That is what NetEase have given us with this map, and I'm content with it. He's sitting over there somewhere. There he is. Not quite the same one, but he's still here. He's still with us. But yeah, he's moving along Manhattan for the first time in EMEA. But I don't know how much of the draft we'll see differently, other than the priority of making sure that either both teams have Jean Grey or neither team have Jean Grey.
Mantis, second ban, so that's already very different compared to what we've seen. Reason now likely going to have to match the Mantis ban, and yeah, I think we're both going to expect to see a Phoenix ban come through, or Shikigami to go for like the save on the Mantis, potentially the save on the Phoenix, so that they can guarantee get that one, as that has been the difference maker, right? One team having Phoenix has been the thing that's allowed them to win both of these series, so in the mirror ban, it's not the Rocket, it's the Jean Grey, which means new strategies for both teams.
So looking at like the bans that have already come in, like you could maybe get the Mantis one-sided, which would be handy for Shikigami. You can protect the Luna here as well to make sure that that's not going to be banned out at the end, or you can make sure that you have your own rocket at this point. So maybe some of the other options like Loki, like you can also just take out some like, I don't know, other options for Reason Gaming if you want to make sure that they don't have that too much, but maybe even Star-Lord, because it seems to be duelists across the board for Reason Gaming to get out.
Well, I mean, if you take the Star-Lord out, you don't have to worry about the team-up coming on through, but I think, like, that's what Shikigami were really banking on, right? Going for the save on the rocket puts Reason under a lot of pressure to try to bait them onto the Star-Lord ban, when they can just go for a rocket of their own and remove the Daredevil instead. If they're banning Black Cat, they're trying to remove options for Frost Mountain to be able to place that. If he wants to play a melee character, his choices are what? Iron Fist? Wolverine. Not the greatest as Shikigami see the rocket save and know that Reason are out of block slots and take the Star-Lord out instead.
So yeah, I mean, it seems that both Frostman and Leolus are going to be like splitting onto some different characters here, but you also are taking out some of those big hitters on the side of Reason Gaming, especially for Simba. He'd made the Elsa look good in some of those elements, but you'd have to imagine that Reason Gaming, because they still have access to at least some of the other like triple strategist lineups. You're missing Mantis, however. That's the big one for Nocta. So I don't know how much we'll see the Iron Fist. I would love to see it, but I think one of the main things that I've sort of learned about seeing this in other regions, Moxie, is like this first point, because it is convergence, it's taking a point and then pushing a payload. There's a concerning difference between how that first point plays and then the rest of the map.
Well, Groot's really good here. Groot is very, very good with the walls being able to cut off a lot of angles for teams, as Shiki were able to keep the Elsa through, so Leolas will be picking up that duelist. Frost Mountain missing the Black Cat, missing the Daredevil, more than happy to settle for the Star-Lord in this instance, since you're able to secure the Rocket Raccoon, which means that you can go for something like Cosmic Ion Amplify, Galactic Legend combos, or if that's too costly an ultimate investment, use one for Strategist Ultimate and then get your second one through for free, as relaxing on the Loki is going to have a steel will to hold the regeneration domain against Shiki, who are just playing full rushdown style. Dino Emma, they're just going to try and break open the front door.
Yeah, just as almost the heist approach, but then there's a Route 1 approach to also trying to break down these front doors. It's not really allowing any space for Shikigami to go for dives, but they are more just playing for the neutral when you have the Star-Lord and the Elsa together. But the point is pretty much being stormed under, as it's almost like a Black Friday sale for Reason Gaming, as they found themselves onto this objective. They found themselves the first pick onto a Seedor that doesn't really know what to do with the faces that are in front of him. And Reason Gaming have come through the traps at blistering pace. Fear back is going to be forced out at the very least, but it's still going to lead to a Seedor going down again.
Yeah, what a bite from Passilo. Takes a chunk out of already bleeding Eastor, deposits him out of line of sight of his team, and Rosa is just getting work done with the walls. Bubble Barrier comes on out again to block off line of sight from Shiki's players, so that when they go onto this point to try and stall it, Reason can get the picks through as fast as possible and move their way onto second in an absolute blistering pace.
Moving on through now for Reason Gaming. This first point very cleanly dealt with, and for compositional changes, Smile. I mean, I don't know if Shikigami are going to have the time to look at Smiling. They're going to change up their comp a little bit as Kai's moved over towards that Venom.
Yeah, Shiki, like you said, going to be moving Kaya onto the Venom. They thought about going for a Moon Knight approach of how stacked up Reason have been, especially playing off of relaxing on that Loki, but now we have Cosmic Ion Amplifiers. Reason just not holding back. They're always going first. Shiki will try to kite it. We've got Kaya trying to just sort out the objective. So this is not free push, and crucially as well from Shiki, they can take all of the space back with Galactic Legend on their own.
Oh, it might be a little bit more tricky for Kaya to get out, as the Master Hunter has found a new form of prey. Eventually going to give it up, though, as some ultimates were forced out and have actually lost out on their own Vanguard with the Devil Dinosaur. Strangle Prison going to be used from Rosa, but it doesn't seem to have really culminated into many of Shikigami being grouped up in the end. But you have got the copy coming over for One Yarn Amplified. It's going to be matched by the OG for Shikigami on the other side. These ultimates, it's almost feeling like that domination map at the start of this series, Moxie all over again with the sustain and getting all of this information. It's going to be neat for Simba to find the right picks. He knows who to focus on.
Oh, he's looking for that Apex Predator. If they can get the wall off after the Glatrox carries people out, they can block line of sight of Rundstrom's ult, but it's Frost Mountain that you have to be hiding line of sight from at the moment. Galactic Legend comes through, cutting down 2. Only 1 is brought back via BRB, but Reason still think it's enough. They push back when they know that Galactic Legend's done, trying to clear up into this high ground position and brute force Frost Mountain away.
We've got Nocta moving over towards the Wolverine. We've seen very little of him, and it's actually Shikigami that are more struggling with the melee options, but still sticking onto this composition outside of switching over towards the Venom. Apex Predator, there's so much to choose for Simba, but he's going to go and take out the Venom off the back of the, Beast of the Abyss, but he's able to still get out. They find so little from it other than the fate of both worlds that's going to allow Shikigami to go in for the counterattack. Rosa goes down in the process, and at least a trade over to that Vanguard that they were aiming for to begin with. Simba tries to find the elimination onto Frost Mountain and does. He makes sure that he's shoved into the shop and told that it's basically closing hours. Rampage now for Shikigami means that this fight is not quite over for them as they're throwing out whatever they can afford to expend. Leolus now switching over, seeing if he can find a pick on his own version of Elsa's. The duelists are pretty much locked up for them with their choices. Reason get things going. Moxie and Shikigami making adjustments again.
Yeah, this wolf swap is to deal with the Venom. Look at him, he's tracking Kaya's position. He wants to go for the counter grab if the Venom shows up, which means that Kaya can't go for the disruption play of trying to bait out things like that regeneration domain. Glatrox comes on through from Leolaz, and Shiki have all of the lineups. Reason find themselves pushed back to spawn yet again, but you better believe that Shiki will try to find more, catching Reason's disengage and draining them of the time that they lack stalling out on first.
Yeah, Reason at least have some ultimates pretty much about to be ready with a copy of Yan Amplifier catalyzing the damage to equal eliminations, potentially. Shikigami, they position nicely, an inspired change for Leolus to go over, and there's so many straight lines that you can pull these Apex Predators in and out of clear sight for the strategist to keep alive. The whilst Reason Gaming were looking to set up with some ult advantages, they've all just been sent back into the neutral, and this could be costly for them on this attacking side.
I mean, Reason just have zero space to be able to work with to actually use that ultimate advantage. Relaxing will be coming on through with God of Mischief, but Scan's already gone down, so you already know the ult percentages of your opponents. She can decide if they want to hold up close, bait an ultimate and kite, or if they want to go first and try to match Reason's aggression, but they do have to know Reason have more ultimates to be able to play with. Regeneration domains already forced very early, which signifies Relaxing wants to be able to go for a very early copy. Cap uses Cosmic Gun Amplifier to boost up the damage of Galactic Legend, but Reason just huddle, taking shelter in the stalls to cut line of sight from Star-Lord and actually map flip.
Yeah, they managed to actually get themselves around, so Shikigami need to try and reposture here. Feast of the Abyss means that they're going to try and fight in this concentrated area a little bit more in the shop doors. The Strangled Prison might make this a little bit more uncomfortable. You might need to sort of social distance a little bit more at this rate if you're Shikigami, as this ultimate is looking to find the pick. Last Stand finally going to be used from Nocta. Finds himself too, so that's key for Shikigami as it's starting to all flounder. Fate of both worlds, maybe just trying to keep people going for the time being, but they lose Leolus as Simba finds a bit of revenge just before the Apex Predator was available on this defense. Simba's got his own Strangler Prison now. Doesn't look like he's able to get much. It's just pulled people off the objective whilst this fight is looking very split for Reason Gaming. Kaya's used this to his advantage and found an opening, but it is going to be traded. Now it's going to be the Apex Predator that found so much from Leolus. It seems to have found a little bit more, and Reason Gaming, despite looking like they were going to win the engagement, have found themselves on the back foot as Shikigami have riposted their way into a grand old fight. No ultimates to rely on in the end, and Simba was hoping for that perfect scenario where everybody can line up. He's going to throw it out in all hopes, and it's a great combination actually from the Feast of the Abyss for Leolus to find the eliminations onto the backline. It seems to be clean up. There's no chance for a portal, and Manhattan is saved for the second checkpoint at least.
Yeah, Rosa uses the Strangling Prison to intercept the path of Shiki's Dino Rampage, so that they can stop Eastor getting on top of the team with all of the damage, all of the slow, which when you combine that with Leolaz's ult would have been absolutely brutal. The problem is that the Elsa ult still goes through, Reason still lose their players, they're not able to come through with a portal in time, so the regroup is thin and very slow in comparison to Shiki, who just funneled players back into the fight. Especially with Kaya still being up and putting so much pressure on Reason's back line. Now that the overtime situation Reason depleted the attention of being able to turn towards Venom and clear him out.
So Shikigami might be able to pull this one back. They've drawn the line on this defense, and I think ultimately, Moxie, it's like, how good is this defense going to be for Reason? Because it fell pretty quickly on the side of Shikigami on that first point.
Well, Shiki will have the comfort of being able to play Moon Knight if they scout out this Loki. Potentially, you do just like want to walk forward, scout the composition Reason are on, walk back to spawn without losing a fight to allow Reason to start pushing those ultimate economies ahead of you. As Shiki have a couple of options available. They could go for the Punisher, they could go for the Moon Knight. They can't go for the Phoenix, that was banned out, and you do feel like it makes a big difference between these two teams. As it looks, outside of the Moon Knight, like we pretty much have a mirror. Lindstrom's still going to be on the Luna, as relaxing on that Loki is going to mean that Frost Mountain is absolutely salivating for the amount of damage that he can get off of these onks.
Moon Knight versus Punisher, as duelists were pretty much the name of the game for the draft bans, which means that flexibility is tested. Some of these players we know from Shikigami have got that flexible side to them. Reason Gaming, however, it's a bit of a rough debut for Simba, as his Elsa has been matched out by one of the better Elsas that we saw in pre-season. Noctua is actually able to build up a good chunk of this like final judgment ult charge, and when you've got a dinosaur in front of you, the stall out is the same from Shikigami. You've built up these ultimates so quickly.
I mean, a Hand of Conchu is already up for Frost Mountain, so Shiki will just use it to be able to divide the Vanguards and the backline. Relaxing has to invest the regeneration domain, but the Hand of Conchu Talons just claw right through the runes, and Shiki still finds picks. Reason are able to bring Rosa back at least with the Battle Recall Beacon, and Rashad still thinks it's winnable. Cosmic Ion Amplifier comes on through, not fully behind cover, so it could potentially be broken early, but he still gets caught on the kite, and Reason now have all of the space to be able to make this disengage hurt.
Relaxing Sky has done such a good job actually to keep that one afloat for his team after losing out. And the Khonshu was able to get a couple of picks, but the Bira backs worth its weight in gold, as Rocket likes to say with the voice line. Like, it's costly, and Reason have used it well to their advantage, but having a copy of it means that they do have the God of Mischief to go in for Yan Amplifier with a final judgment.
Simba's using third-person POV. Not going to run, purely walking, so no sound cues give his position away. He wants to be able to get a surprise Apex Predator catch off when Shiki decides to walk forward, which might split the team from Lindstrom's Fate of Both Worlds. Here comes the Cosmic Ion Amplifier. Reason could go for a God of Mischief copy to be able to match, which means Final Judgment should be able to shred through caps. And there's the disengagement coming through from Shiki, but crucially, that's one ult burned on the side of the attack versus two for the defense.
Yeah, that was actually a really good play from Shikigami to get some of these big ones out. So it means that this focus is onto Simba again, as the Apex Predator has managed to pull out the picks that he wants to get. But he seems to have cornered himself into the fray, as Shikigami have actually turned the numbers onto him. They've just been pulled into a dark alley and hung out to dry, as another Hand of Khonshu is available from Frost Mountain. Reason Gaming were just out-positioned with these ultimates. Have to go for the portal play now for Rosa, and they might just have a chance to stall this out for a little bit longer time-wise.
Cosmic Ion Amplifier is so close for Rashad. Frost Mountain goes down to Nocta. Reason think that this is winnable. Kaya uses the Sonic Seduction, but the Seraphim Shield from Doctor Strange should be able to shield some of it off, which means that Rashad gets Cosmic Ion Amplifier through, and Lindstrom has to invest Fate of Both Worlds for Shiki to get the opportunity to break it. Reason still holding on in the fight for a little bit of time, but Rosa is thrown off a point by Isidore, grabbing him up, and we head into second. But the stall out from Reason depleted Shikigami's entire ultimate stock.
And you got some switchovers happening. Reason Gaming, they were very apt on Spider Islands to go okay, no, we need to go for this composition, we need to go for it now. So no changes being made realistically says a lot about how Reason want to play it out on second here. They know that it can be stalled out for a good chunk of time. Shikigami was able to do the same for a lot longer, as that first point defense was a lot better for Reason Gaming as it was the other way around. But the neutral fight between the dinosaurs is going to be key there, as the leaps are coming through right into the streets of Manhattan. Reason, but the picks have been found off the back of the amplifier, and Reason Gaming might be scappering a bit more if it wasn't for Nocta finding a perfect pick over on Takaya. It is going to be reset with a be right back, but it does mean that there's at least a chance for these defenders to hold on. Final Judgment, can you pair it with anything? Even if you could, you lose out as Moon Knight from Frost Mountain has found that elimination, and Reason Gaming are starting to flounder.
Yeah, it's a crucial pick onto Relaxing. If Loki was still up in the fight, Nocta could potentially use Final Judgment, cared for by the regeneration domain. Reason get one walk at this, but like you said, they don't have Portal, which means that Relaxing is going to hurriedly try to build up God of Mischief so that Nocta has an ultimate to care for when they commit Final Judgment and walk towards Shiki's side of the map.
The leaps through as it's going to be parkour for the Venom, but Reason Gaming have plenty of ultimates to work with themselves, but they've been intercepted. Final Judgment's going to come out from Nocta, but Leolus with the Apex Predator just before Simba could get his. He switched over to the Daredevil, so we're not going to see it on the other side. It's more of a panic, and now the Hand of Khonshu is going to push back these defenders a little bit more. Do you try and touch the stallers? You have to touch. There's only 3 meters left on the board, so you have to throw yourself into this concentrated damage that the attackers are putting through. Shikigami pushed to their limits on a new map with a different style of composition. Seems to have maybe found themselves this third map. If it wasn't for Reason Gaming having the numbers to touch, even Nocta's got over to Spider-Man, because that's how much of a clamber it is. It is his city after all, and it's his neighborhood that he wants to try and protect. You just don't expect to see him here in the fray or find a pick in the end as he actually takes down Lindstrom. He's not able to take the Pira back. That was his biggest enemy in the streets so far, never mind Kingpin, and he's still trying to leap into touch as everybody else from Shikigami's going down. Spider-Man can't do too much. Nobody else is able to really touch for Reason, and this might be where the payload reaches its end. Everybody's gone down. The Rampage has ended it, and Shikigami find themselves this third map win and potential playoffs locked in.
Oh, there's some absolutely crucial moments there for Shikigami. Like the early pick onto Relaxing to delay Final Judgment, and then they actually stun cancel the other Elsa ult. Apex Predator goes down to 50%, and Final Judgment would have paired so well with that ult. Everyone picked up, everyone immobile to get out of the Punisher's way. It truly would have been judge, jury, executioner, but Shikigami are able to prevent it, and then unfortunately for Reason, they're stuck in a panic. They don't have Portal, they've got to rely on characters who can get very quickly from spawn back onto the objective, but they don't really have a full meta composition which can fully find a way of playing.
What a series between these two, and it comes down to, at the end, exactly what a lot of people were theorizing about the Devil Dinosaur when it came out. Oh, how do you deal with it? Just hit it with Moon Knight or Punisher, and we ended up with Moon Knight versus Punisher. But the extreme amount of damage that was being put out by Frost Mountain was breaking the siege. The quick ult charge was doing too much. The just incredible play of Isidore, being able to take Strange off the point, being able to interrupt, being able to just get so much pressure onto the front line, and of course Leo consistently being amazing, perfect Apex Predators every single time. Just mwah, Shikigami in the highest pressure situation they've probably had so far this stage, really bringing it to bear. Ryan, that was a mental series.
I mean, it was such a good test, I think, for Reason Gaming to sort of go for these strategies, but ultimately, it's that experience and that flexibility that won out in the end for Shikigami. A team that I guess were like struggling to find out what their identity was going to be built around this stage seemed to have found it, with Isidore having some terrific dino play, but also with the focus of the draft, the ban's been a lot more into duelist. You're allowing Leolus and Frost Mountain to really show that experience. Simba's been terrific. I love seeing the Elsa, but Leolus pretty much said, respect your elders when it came to pulling out the Elsa himself. And as soon as Leolus switched over, it felt like it was game over from Reason Gaming at that point.
Moxie, this is one of these delightful series we've had where you can't point out a weak link in the team. This was just Shikigami just able to outplay Reason barely.
Yeah, and they adapted really well, because like the first time that Reason played their attack, Shiki got caught a little by surprise. Yeah. I think it's fair to say, by the sheer amount of aggression that Reason walked in with. And then Shiki were just like, okay, you want to go aggressive, we'll go aggressive too. They took advantage of the Loki that Reason have really liked to be able to rely on, fueling Frost Mountain on the Moon Knight, which is a pick he's already looked comfortable on in week 2. So he'll be very happy to have had that one get through the draft, especially since Reason occupied 2 whole bags ban slots in their draft to trying to chip away at his hero pool. Both the Daredevil and the Black Cat were thrown out, but the Moonlight still being left open was something that Frost Mountain was able to take full advantage of.
Frost Mountain's hero pool is so wide, it's so tough to deal with. Finishing on that Moon Knight with 34,000 damage, topping anyone else in this game. We also, once again, see our continued spree today of seeing heroes we don't see too often, with Doctor, as you mentioned before, bringing out the Spider-Man in the last possible moment. But this was a team effort from everybody. Rashed in particular, getting some incredible Cosmic Yard amplifiers and even portaling it twice to try and save the game. Ryan Reason, despite coming out of this losing the series, they looked great.
They looked fantastic, yeah. And for a reason, like their last opponent to try to confirm a place into playoffs is Crownfall, who are like purely eliminated. There's no chance for them because they're like 0 and 4 in their groups, right? For Shikigami, they have Chosen next, so it takes a lot of weight off that game. And like I said prior to this, like Chosen were hoping for Shikigami to win because it makes their job a little bit easier with some of the head-to-heads. Fire Strays, however, they were hoping for Reason to make this a lot more on their side to go in for those chances because they have some tough opponents to go with too. Like, it's left this whole group open for everybody else other than Shikigami. That is pretty much like, until it's like perfectly verified, 99% across the board.
Reason their last series is going to be against Crownfall. That'll be the last series tomorrow. So going to be a tough one there. Crownfall could very much play spoiler if something goes very wrong in the Chosen Ones versus Shikigami match. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but overall, just a beautiful performance coming in from both these teams. We were looking forward to this series, and it definitely pays off in our favor. Moxie, are we going to be seeing more of the Moon Knight? Maybe we could ask the man himself, as we have an interview with Frost Mountain coming up, and we will be heading into that right now, it seems. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Frost Mountain. And I have to ask first, you've had one of the widest hero pools throughout all of Ignite. It's been delightful to see just the sheer variety you come in with that. Where do you draw the line personally between having those extra options that other people might not play as much into really grinding away on individual characters?
I think it's very important to have like some of these characters to play when you're banned out. I mean, this team banned out Black Cat and Didi, and if I just don't play any of the characters, it's gonna be horrible. I could play Star-Lord here, but this team is like, they want to force Brawl, so I just wanted to go Moon Knight. And I think this is a character that a lot of players pick, but they don't practice. I think I'm one of the only EU players that actually like plays this character in comp and practices this. I feel like a lot of players just first time it whenever they play, and I don't think that's too good.
You're the first team to play Lower Manhattan from EMEA. We're expecting Reason Gaming to throw that out at the end because the Spider Islands was an inspired choice, right? They like their convoy, so we were expecting that to come out.
Mm-hmm. So we picked Spider Islands because we thought it was one of our best maps, but the issue with when we pick Spider Islands is that we're already kind of confident on Convoy, and Convergence is the reason we don't normally like giving Convergence is because we had, before this game, I don't think we've won a single Lower Manhattan game ever. I think we've had 0% win rate on that map since it's been released. So when we picked Spider Islands, we were worried that they were going to go Lower Manhattan. We didn't think they would. We thought they were going to go Central Park because that's what like our prep told us, but they took us to Manhattan, and we just had to like make no excuses and just win.
Well, you got the one win on the map when it truly did matter, but a little bit ago, we were able to catch up with the team, and you basically confessed that coming into this meta, it was a lot more uncomfortable than in preseason. What changed that you're finding more comfort in being able to play things like the Devil Dinosaur now?
I think it's just been a lot of practice. I know early season we were protecting things that weren't Dino. Like I know a lot of teams were, and then we just weren't. And we just had to like kind of follow up, like catch up to the meta. I felt like we were always like a week behind. I still like think today, like the drafts, we were kind of like on first map. I think we overcooked. Like we didn't keep it simple. I think a lot of the reason we lost that first map is just because we gave them the Mantis and we gave them the Phoenix, and they crutch hard in the triple support, but they also play the Rocket like low-key, and I don't mind playing into Rocket low-key, but when they play the triple support with the Phoenix, it's so like, it's just we struggle into it and they're good at it, so we should have just changed the draft for that.
So looking ahead to the playoffs, as you guys are one step closer to that now with one series left in the board here, are you looking across to Group A? Is there anyone you particularly would like to play against or try and avoid?
I mean, I'm looking at the placements in both groups, and it's looking like our first game is probably going to be against Rad if they win against Pulsar tomorrow. And if we go against Rad, you know, it's like they're a very good team, but we saw what happened last preseason, and I'm excited to go against them again to prove that we can do it again, hopefully.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Frost. We'll let you get back to your team to celebrate, and once again, congratulations on the win.
Thank you.
Always delightful to talk to Frost Mountain, and always delightful to get a tease of potentially the continued, maybe second biggest rivalry in EMEA behind Na'Vi and Virtus Pro, of the incredible Rad Shikigami rivalry that we got last year, pre-season as well. But we already just mentioned one of the teams here. We still have one more series coming up for you all, so I hope you're as excited as we are. Don't go anywhere. After this break, we will have the Lions versus Na'Vi. Na'Vi are currently sitting pretty at the top of their table. Tomorrow may be the big match that we've all been waiting for with them versus Virtus Pro. However, the Lions, they just want to get themselves on the board, and you don't back an animal into a corner. The Lions are well and truly in that corner, but Ryan Central and got Moxie. This team has a lot to prove here. Moxie, what can you tell me about it?
I mean, I think we were all a little bit worried when we saw that Lions parted ways with Gainer, so it's wonderful to get to see him picked back up again, because he truly did breathe a lot of life into this team. He taught them how to play certain compositions. His macro calling is always going to be very much sought after, both inside team gameplay and outside of it in scrims and looking at the broadcast block. But I really want to see, again, this is a team that worked very well with dive comps, now having to move into Brawl meta, probably playing for Zerk to get the Phoenix a whole lot more of.
Whereas on the other side, Ryan, it's almost as if they need no introduction, but let's do it anyway.
Let's do it for the practice, because we get to talk about this team way too often. Na'Vi, winners of pre-season, currently 3-0 in their groups. Confirmed top fours, that means playoffs, but they want to try to go in with a 4-0 score at the end of today to make that game against Virtus Pro tomorrow a lot more spicy and exciting. There's not really too much for Na'Vi to play for. Otherwise, they've been pretty lax in their approach in some of these games when it comes to some of their drafts and ideas, yet still being able to win. Whereas for Lions, they have a little bit more to play for. Like, there's a graphic that shows just how close this group is behind the top dogs of Na'Vi and VP, who have already qualified. But 3 out of the 4 teams that aren't Alter, it's essentially just boiling down to like who is able to win up in these matchups. Lions would be eliminated if they lose today, but that Rad game becomes incredibly important.
It very much would be, but again, you're fighting against Na'Vi, who, as you already mentioned, have been doing some fun stuff with their time here, whereas Lions, in a 3-way tie, they need this. So Na'Vi, if there is a time to take a win versus them, it's in a match that isn't as important for them. But Na'Vi, of course, do want that first seed to potentially avoid Heretics on the other side of the bracket as well, Mox.
Yeah, I mean, Na'Vi in pre-season, they were very open, saying that they did not mind dropping matches because they knew it was just group stages. They wanted to hold on to those strategies. Unfortunately for Lions, there is no such luck for Na'Vi to be having that sort of approach this stage, because we've already talked about it. Stage 1 playoffs will be on a different patch than in the group stages. There is no reason to hold strategies back, with the exception of the fact that Na'Vi are facing their strongest opponent tomorrow in the form of Virtus Pro.
We're going to be heading to Krakoa. The Lions, they need this win. Na'Vi, despite the fact that they've been having some fun, they have the quickest games of almost any team in EMEA right now. I leave you with Got Moxie and Ryan Central for map number 1.
One of the interesting things I think for Lions is a priority to try and get White Fox one-sided if they can. There's been some instances where like the Dino has been left open realistically, but like they've been keen to protect it. On the side of Na'Vi, they've actually wanted to get the one-sided rocket, which sort of lines up with what has been very meta at the moment. And even the likes of protecting the Star-Lord just to make sure that Terra has something to fly around.
Yeah, I feel like Lions will likely go for a save onto Phoenix unless Na'Vi remove it early on, as we will see again. They look at the ban on the rocket into potentially Dino Mirror hit, yep, and then likely a rocket save on a second slot unless Lions now target out the Rocket Raccoon here. So far, Phoenix on the field for both of those teams, and she does very well on Krakoa in all maps, especially if you get gifted Cradle and you can just play for very long line of sights.
Seeing exactly what the Lions want to go for. I want to make sure there isn't going to be a one-sided rocket with how it's been played, but they've been keen to also get rid of the likes of like Luna, Mantis, who are still available, and like I mentioned, like White Fox, but I think they've started to lean away from it. Luna is also something that Na'Vi is just not happy to let through, so I imagine when we have these like neutral bans happening at the same time, there's going to be Luna Snow taken out from both sides.
Save here for Na'Vi could potentially be Mantis, could be Phoenix. Can't be one-sided rocket. They've already got one-sided Dino. They try and preserve something like the Cap, but no, they go for the Black Cat, which has been left open. And Jerky, like we talk about Tanuki being a pioneer of Black Cat, Jerky's up there too.
You say that, but this team also has Croc on it, which just makes me think that, like, oh god, are we going to lock it? Like, the Lions, I think, like, yeah, Alta didn't have much to play for in that last game. Like, it was pretty much just confirmed elimination, so Na'Vi can afford to be a little bit, like, lax in the sort of roster switch-arounds of what Roller is. I like the Phoenix ban right at the end there from the Lions and might want to protect it themselves to just make sure that you have something to build around from your dual lenses.
Yeah, Phoenix Mantis. Still available for Lions, so Na'Vi likely going to have to burn this last ban slot on removing the Mantis triple strategist lineup for Zerk to be able to have 8% damage boost on all of his shots when he has that inspiration coming on through. Na'Vi not instantly going for it though, so still a little bit of discussion, and they opt for the Daredevil instead, since, yeah, Lions could potentially just have Phoenix play on the back line, and then you funnel the Daredevil into Na'Vi's team, so that even if he's not getting picks, he's still creating a lot of space for Zerk to be able to actually land and call the shots.
So it's going to be the one-sided Phoenix against the one-sided like Daredevil if there is a switchover required from Na'Vi, but there's still access over for the Lions to have their own Black Cat. Outside of that, though, the three main bans that we've seen are going to be sort of even, and at the very least, you can say with the chosen ones against Team Heretics, they tried to go off of the beaten path of how these games are approached. The Lions hoping to try to match out Na'Vi pound for pound with those three bans all being the same.
Yeah, Loki Mantis Group is available if Lions want to be able to field towards that, but we've already established they're much more of a dive team, so I think Na'Vi are like, okay, we can afford to let that composition go through because Gainer is likely going to be on Cap or Venom, and Teller will obviously be on the Devil Dinosaur to be able to match up with Rajaro, which means no group for that team-up, as well as Lions potentially going to have the White Fox Jeff in Fizz, as, yeah, Cook's on his new main. It's Daredevil time.
One strategist, Jeff. Really?
Yeah, I think we got an answer with how seriously Na'Vi are taking this.
I mean, we haven't seen many instances of Black Cat and Daredevil in play together. It's usually one or the other. There it is.
Okay,
I expected that there was going to be some pivot, but he made us panic there for a moment. Na'Vi almost like locking into playing this one properly.
Okay, we can talk about Lions, though, coming out with actually a strategy Na'Vi have used themselves against the Devil Dinosaur. 3-second hard CC with the Penny Nets to be able to interfere with the plans of Rajaro, but trust me, flanking around will be able to break the generator, which means that you don't have to worry about stepping onto those mines. Good kidnap coming on through as well off of the bite from the bleed, which means that Na'Vi will draw first blood and Lions down Rex, relying fully on Loki heals who very quickly falls.
point put over for Na'Vi, and we really have seen it all today with the Penny Park, like it played for Lions, and also Triple Vanguard. We haven't really seen a lot of in comparison to preseason, where even EMEA didn't play Triple Vanguard an awful lot. Here, Lions still trying to dedicate to it. They're losing out some of the numbers. There's a couple of trades here or there, but Na'Vi having control of the objective feels that Lions have to try and regroup if they want to fight this one again.
I mean, my main concern is that, trust me, on the Vanguard Deadpool now has 3 Vanguards to be able to farm Banhammer off of, and Loki clones too, since you actually pulled style points off of being able to deal damage to the doppelgangers. I think for Lions, they wanted to have 3 Vanguards to soak up the damage so that Zerx had much more room to breathe, and you don't have to worry about Jerky getting into the backline because 3 Vanguards are going to be able to scout him out and try and mark him. But the problem for Lions now is that Na'Vi got the first point, and Lions have to walk directly into them.
One pick for Croc. He's managed to steal himself another as Banhammer is going to be thrown out, and Fate is going to follow up on it as QB has to try to disengage a little bit more. It seemed Lions, with these ultimates being building at a good pace, might be able to sort of group up and go for this counterattack. But just as the setup was required, Na'Vi send them packing again. They're still over on his Penny Parkers. He had to still try to build up for that Spider Sweeper, but 2/3 of the way off.
Yeah, I mean, Zerx has to hold Endsong as well to be able to cancel Fate's ultimate, which means that you're reliant on Freedom Charge to be able to defend through Galactic Legend from Terra as Gainer goes through Portal, utilizes the sign cues that Na'Vi pull their attention. Terra getting caught out a little bit by the emote, but he's got all of his iframes up. He'll be able to survive as Jerky comes on through the calling card, Freedom Charge to defend against it. Fate now coming through with Jeff, which would mean that Zerx comes through with Endsong and throws claps onto it, but Fate's able to dodge, going up instead of staying on the ground, which means it lifts.
It goes down and Jeff comes up, and I guess it's sort of left a little bit unorthodox for Lions, losing out on these picks. And I think level 1 Croc has managed to get more final hits over on this white box than he did on the Daredevil last week. But it's the domination map going the same. First point pretty much uncontested for Na'Vi all the way through. Very much feels that they're locked in, and Lions trying to go for some more like offbeat strategies.
Yeah, I mean, Gainer's trying to go for this Captain America to go put pressure on Na'Vi's backline, but you're not going to put pressure on Jeff or White Fox as a solo cap. You don't have the damage to be able to actually pick them off, which means that Na'Vi always know when the cap shows up, it's purely to just distract from the rest of Lion's composition, and they have zero care for it. In the meantime, Paul Z had, well, I guess actually it was QB who was earlier on the Invisible Woman, is just getting continuously ran down upon by both the Black Cat and the Captain, the Vanpool coming on through from the side of Na'Vi.
Trust me, he's still staying on. Him and Rajaro haven't really had to change much, with Rajaro just been on Dino duty the whole time. And is Crook about to do it again? Well, you got Jerky that's over on the white box. This is kind of the composition that they were trying, so it does feel like we're going to see a little bit more of the Devil of Hell's Kitchen being a crook instead of a hero for once.
How well does the Sorcerer Supreme fare into Devil Dinosaur? Is the answer usually not well. Terror, those being fended off. Good knock comes through onto him, but Roger of the Rampage just runs right into Lion's whole team, forces out the Kuma Hill Unleashed. Trustman follows up the damage with Banhammer, which shreds down both Gainer and Zerx. And Lions, despite having the White Fox ultimate up, just are not able to have enough heals to be able to see off the amount of burst damage Na'Vi's comp are capable of.
Taking chunks out of each other as Lions are going to lose out on one dinosaur, and this strange at the start means that this is a pretty easy like whole play to go for, as Na'Vi still haven't quite taken the objective. It's Jeff trying to spit out whatever they can get a hold of, but just stops QB in their tracks. And Rajaro now seemingly sending the rest of Lions back into their cave, beaten and bruised even with the portal as they try to re-engage, but there's so much of like Na'Vi to try and go in for this fight, and you're right, Jerky going down in this spray means that like Na'Vi now have to rely a lot on Fate to be the difference maker. Losing both of your duelists in quick succession now means that Na'Vi actually might be losing out from this engagement unless it's Jeff manages to grab everybody. Unfortunately though, Ziad instantly on, able to get the switch, actually able to get the point for Lions.
Yeah, Lions able to actually just use so many defensive ults, which supply shields or extra health or just the health. Ziad comes through with Freedom Charge, which they're able to stall long enough with the Strange TP to have unmatched sustainability, and Na'Vi start to lose some of their players, but now you're out of defenses against Galactic Legend, and QB's already down. Zerg's being pressured, does not use Ensong Inferno since you're not in a good position to translate it into a pick. It looks like Lions will just decide to roll over in this fight, lose gracefully, and regroup with all of their ults still intact.
Man, Terra's ability to just focus and laser in on the right target is always good to watch. And just also the distance away that he was with the Galactic Legend, you feel like this is not two in the fight. Feels like it's going to be hard for Lions to disengage, but he's able to get 2-3 off of the back of the ultimate ending. But now they're able to switch over the point. Lions did well to go in for that first fight stall out, but they have to use everything. And now with just a Galactic Legend, gonna use less, but now started to keep it in hands now as Lions look to go in and fight this with their own Ensong Inferno and Camille, where you got Let the Devil are going to be used from Crook as he's trying to go into the backline, cause a little bit more chaos. And Na'Vi still having control of this objective, pretty much using all of those ultimates that they banked up in all of the fray, and Lions now have to pretty much give up this engagement despite them getting a couple of picks themselves. It's a messy one though.
Oh, Fate only takes 2 of his own team. But Gainer does fall. Lions now without its Jeff trying to hold on long enough for Freedom Charge to be able to come through. But unfortunately, down Teller and Gainer, who's actually now swapped onto Hulk, of all things. I guess to have Bubble in this one fight because you know that Fate has its Jeff, so use the barrier and just have the rest of your team play within bubble distance so that no one gets eaten.
66% now for Na'Vi to make it another win over on Krakow, which has historically been a grand old map. They haven't lost at it so far this year. Rarely even lost any points on it. So this has been so much of the plan for Na'Vi with how it's going, but there's been a couple more eliminations going in for Lions. Fate has that It's Jeff in hand. Like you mentioned, the Hulk swap over might be to try to disparage this a bit more if they can. Losing out on a lot. You've got Galactic Legend from Terra that could come in at any given moment to try and turn this fight around. Feels that Na'Vi though, however, are just like, we'll give this one up. We have so much control and we're at 90%.
Yeah, I mean, even if Gainer gets sort of bullied out of using the bubble as a resource early, you will have Ensong Inferno from Zerx to be able to CC immune out of it, as Terra takes the same flank this time though. Lions will be able to alter history. They've got Freedom Charge to be able to hold on. Zerx with the Ensong Inferno uses it early, which means that all reliance on dodging the Jack ult will come through from Gainer.
Freedom Charge was used and then the Ensong as a result, and now that's the It's Jeff. Is able to get something, able to just get the edge of the Devil Dinosaur to try to spit him off the map, as it's not really going to amount to too much. Instead, they just want to stagger him out and go for the pick with how low he was. But now it's one of your main vanguards down and plenty of people having to try to switch back. Zerx is going to go over to the Spider-Man to try and touch here, as the numbers and the timing is not ideal for Lions to continue on with this map. The Biohammer is actually going to go in onto the Spider-Man, which is going to make this an even harder task for Zerx to keep his head above water. And unfortunately, Lions drown out on Krakoa. Na'Vi pick up another win over on Domination.
Yeah, Faye just showing the prowess with the Jeff, understanding not to use the ultimate on the backline where the Hulk is playing, but go for the isolated Devil Dino, who you won't get off the map, because if you do try to go for the spit, he just won't fall far enough. But like you said, low health enough that they're able to clean up the pick. If they can clean up the series, we'll have to see. We'll be back with map 2 after this break.
Hello and welcome! Do you know where your classes are, or would you like to face the Iron Samurai? Both skins are now available in-game for you. Mandy Celestine, the Greeter, and of course, the Iron Man Iron Samurai. So if you're looking for some new style, then make sure you get into the game right now and pick those up. Speaking of new style, we once again see level 1 Crook deciding to become the level 1 lawyer and bringing out his now patented Daredevil for a second series. But Na'Vi are still 1-0 up, Moxie.
I mean, hey, look, maybe Iron Man is just a theater kid. he's in the drama class.
Exactly. He's just really into the cosplay. He's made it himself for the armor, and they're like, "This is Romeo and Juliet. You don't have to be in full armor." And he is like, "I am Iron Man."
I think that would be closer to Groot. Maybe Groot plays a tree in the Christmas play. That would maybe be a little bit on the nose, though.
Me and him have that in common, I guess. Then, yeah.
Typecasting is what that is. Oh dear. All right, so Na'Vi getting back into our series here as opposed to theory crafting the intricacies of the Marvel College universe. Na'Vi sit 1-0 up, and our MVP, after an incredible performance, as per usual, is going to be Fate, who continued to just give us some great healing, had some perfect executions of being able to just grab up the Devil Dinosaur. Moxie, this was just a great performance.
Yeah, I mean, the dodge of Song Inferno by going up as it came down. He has been a pioneer of Jeff gameplay, and we've seen Jeff just stay in the meta for so long, and since so many other characters are very problematic in this current meta. In fact, when's the last time we saw a Jeff ban?
Oh, a long time ago. Probably be post preseason, right?
Yeah, like he just always has his best character for absolute free.
Ryan, Fate putting on a stellar performance as per usual, but we were literally discussing in the break in terms of MVPs. Could easily have been Terra as well.
Yeah, he's been happy and comfortable at this point. Like, we've even seen some protects going over to the Star-Lord later in the draft to make sure that he's able to play and be comfortable on it. I think the main thing with like highlighting Fate as well is like, yeah, he's been one of the early adopters for the likes of White Fox as well, but this whole like strategy that Na'Vi have been doing to put Croak on a Daredevil is allowing Jerky to get a lot more experience and time on that character too. So it's like Fate can play the White Fox, but they're making sure that the other strategists can play it alongside too. And Lions, I think for map choice, looking at them, it's got to be Yggdrasil because it has been Yggdrasil the last 4 times, no? So I imagine we're going back there again.
At this point, Comfort may have to be the play. I also do want to give a big shout out to Zerx, who actually had a ridiculously stellar game, despite being taken out the most on their team because, well, they were being targeted because they were putting up some absolute numbers, especially on that first point. But like you said, Yggdrasil is a go-to map for this team, and there's a lot they can work through here, so we'll just have to wait for that map choice to see if that's where they go, or perhaps it's their turn to take us to a lower Manhattan boxing.
I mean, predictability, especially when it becomes a pattern, it's very dangerous at this level of play because teams will just come to expect it. If you've gone to that map multiple times, teams will be able to pick apart your ban draft, pick apart your composition, heck, pick apart literally where you want to position for every single aspect of the map and counter-strat it. I think like that's why Shikigami going for Spider Islands in the earlier matchup was so inspired. Reason for the same reason, going to lower Manhattan, because there's just less tape that the teams have of each other playing those styles.
And our map is going to be, will we go to the usual Yggdrasil, or is it time for some chaos? It's a Midtown coming in, sticking with the convoy, but they are going to mix it up a little bit here, Ryan.
Yeah, they're trying to go for something a little bit different. I'd say that the results over on Midtown are still pretty good, though, for Na'Vi. Haven't lost it so far, beaten VP and Fire, whereas it's 1-4 on the side of Lions.
Well, let's see if they can make it a 2-4, as this is their chance to try and even it up versus Na'Vi. I leave you, Ryan Central and Got Boxing.
I do want to also say that like for Team Heretics, the last game that Lions played on this map, they got full health. So it doesn't necessarily like stem too much confidence. Whereas the side for like, I think on the side like Na'Vi, it had to push all the way against Fire Strays in playoffs. And then it went some again. They went for a second round of Midtown, which we don't often get to see. I mean, the draft was like the only thing I'd say for Na'Vi that hasn't been too like out there, Moxie. Like some of the, switching Croc over to playing like a duelist and stuff is one thing, but the drafts have remained not too silly from Na'Vi.
Yeah, I think it's also like pretty smart that you're not making Crook's Luna too much of a target this early in ban draft, because he has one of, if not the best Luna snows in the world. And she is very, very strong in this current meta, as Devil Dino will once again continue to be the mirror save for both of these teams. But Lions moving away from Yggdrasil sort of means that they're moving away from as much focus on a dive composition. Like, Midtown is, when you look at all of the convoy maps, one of the ones that has probably the least amount of value from these dive teams. So potentially you're looking at playing a little bit more of a front-to-back style.
Draft is very similar to the first time as well on Krakoa, where there's just not really anything that's trying to define Lions away from whatever composition Na'Vi is wanting to run. Mantis Protect means that there is going to be more triple strategist in player, or maybe it's going to be more of just like the 2-2-2 setup. We've seen some like weird lineups with the backline being 2-2-2 with the likes of like Adam and stuff, but that was domination. It feels like it's going to be a bit of a different story here for Na'Vi. And protecting the Mantis Dislike makes sense. She is still one of the hot commodities when it comes to a character. If you can get on your side and make sure that the opponent doesn't have access to it as well.
Boxes Lions into a corner as well, because now they have to make the Sophie's choice of the last ban slot. Does it go to Loki to deny the Loki Mantis team up, or does it go to Phoenix to deny the target that Mantis would damage boost? If you take out the Phoenix, likely the turn onto Elsa becomes inevitable. So what Lions will actually do is they'll match Na'Vi. They'll go for the bat on Loki, go on the save on Mantis. Now Na'Vi have the same decision that they have to make. Do you let one-sided Loki Mantis through, or do you let the Mantis Phoenix be one-sided on your side?
Or you could do that.
Or you can do that. I mean, Lions played Penny Parker earlier.
Don't you
on
dare
Cradle.
try to justify this. Don't you dare. Trust me, it's like, guys, I have a strat. Oh, I think it was just sort of left up to the game to decide it because they were too busy like mogging off on like other game modes, I suppose. But yeah, you could do that as well. You could just go, you know what, we're going to get rid of the character that is sometimes annoying on this map, but very rarely.
I mean, it's annoying into Dino. I will say that. And Na'Vi have played it on Defense of Convoy before. They played it on Museum of Contemplation. And it was very frustrating for teams to have to play into. Specifically the Vanguards, with how frequently the CC comes up from it. And with Fate going on to Invisible Woman, you also have to worry about force physics pulling you, well, into the mines, so that you don't get much choice to be able to avoid them.
This is like any like non-mirrored like win rate data is gonna be so skewed. Now I've just realized.
Na'Vi stats, baby.
Oh man!
Even the portal block outside
portal
spawn.
BM, and
like
gets,
the fact that wait, they got him. They got someone. Someone walked through the strange TP. Gainer goes down.
And just as I said, Na'Vi have been pretty sensible with their drafts. They decided to sort of pull this out as well from Trust Me.
Oh, Jerky gets Gainer off the map, then swaps to Adam to be able to have Soul Bond for this first fight, and also a lot more damage to try and burst down both the Dino and the group, as Terra is being an absolute menace, as he always is, blitzing down Zerk so that he loses Ensong Inferno uptime. I feel bad for Gainer as well, because like realistically, who do you try to grab as Wolf? You can't close the distance because Penny Mine's hurt. You can't grab the Dino because of the passive, and wait, it's real. It's happening for the first time in Ignite EMEA. Punisher is a top Devil Dino.
Rogero has got a little bit more company with Terra. Actually not under the ground. He's actually on top in this case. And Lions now scrambling to make some changes. Wolverine is staying the same. But Moon Knight for Ziad is switching over. He's taking a good chunk of damage and now needs to watch out for this arc run, as it's going to be Krug finding the pick up to Ziad to eventually get this elimination. And this seems to have fallen into tomfoolery.
The flank Dino coming through. Lions reacting with regeneration domain, in which case Rojaro just plucks the crew outside of it and chucks him towards his team. And Na'Vi complete the hold as Lions trying to work out what they do against this. Zerx has steadily been building to the Endsong Inferno, and QB with God of Mischief could afford the team forward progress with a copy onto something like Soul Resurgence, but Jerky's so close to Karmic Revival, even if players hold, they just got all go back.
The worst part is it's like making the Penny look very good. Maybe, just maybe, but you have got the Mantis Ultimates traded out with the copies over, and now a final judgment hopping off the back of the Devil Dinosaur. It's trying to clear whatever they can. Over the clones, it was just actually getting the damage through over into the walls that finds that pick onto Zerx that tries to find somewhere a little bit safer. That's brave! That's insane from Terra!
Look, when you have a Mantis damage boost and a shotgun, you can just two-tap.
That was unbelievable. It's just this, you know, like top 5 plays. I think we've got one. Just that alone, as Terra is now just styling on him.
I think we found a new con line. Terra is in my back line with a shotgun and a soul bond, and he is picking up players. Regeneration domain forced by Aura and Rampage alone, which means Rojaro falls, Jerky brings him back with Karmic Revival, and then Lions are right back to square one.
Oh no, the problem though, Spider Sweeper got interrupted, so trust me, has to build it up from 50% again and narrowly manages to avoid this Endsong Inferno. Zerx though gets picked off in the end, and now the Leap-In is trying to go in for the counter-attack. It's looking that Lions are going to get full held over on this map again, and it's their choice to try to go for something else, but this hold from Na'Vi is just a little bit too good. Lions scrambling to change up stuff again with a Moon Knight switch over. You got Ziad that's now over on a Devil Dinosaur. It's a free fall with 25 seconds left.
Yeah, Teller going for Vanguard Deadpool so you can try and build up an ultimate, but the swap's so late, you don't have any upgrades. Zerx falls, which means Lions have the Mantis damage boost, but no Phoenix to give it to, so full reliance on Gala with the Moon Knight instead. Teller's trying to clear up the high ground, but you're contesting an Adam still with Soul Bond. And in the meantime, Terra's just playing Dive Duelist towards Lions' own spawn, to the point that no one's actually in a position to get onto Cart, and Na'Vi complete one of the shortest amounts of distance holds picked up on Midtown so far in the whole of Rivals Esports.
Well, there was maybe a saving grace for Lions if they could run the penny packet themselves, but they can't because it was part of the instrumental grand design that is Natus Vincier's meta read. Because it's going to be that one-sided side. That's got to be like heartbreaking for Lions, who like weren't expected to win this. Similar to the game earlier with the Chosen Ones and Team Heretics. This game, losing it wouldn't eliminate them completely from playoffs, but you have to sort of look at who these next opponents are for them. Like, you've got Lions played up against Rad, who have to play Pulsar tomorrow as well. And you're seeing exactly what the rest of these teams could do to try to get into that top 4 in Group A. Now
I tell you
they're
what,
set.
win rates potentially of certain heroes about to go into free fall if Na'Vi actually decide to lock Blade for the, what, 5 meter distance they need to be able to pick up.
I mean, bets are in. Like, what is Ziad is coming out on Iron Fist. Like, it almost feels that they're like, okay, like, what are we going? We're going like the Black Cat and the
he's doing
Daredevil. Jerky is on the Spider-Man again. That's twice.
Trust me, he's on Blade.
I mean, Blade's good on this map. Like, shout out to our boys over at Tropomatic.
Gen G now, but
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Ziad wins the 1v1. I feel like that should, you know, just work out the whole map. 2 Daredevils, 1 versus 1. The winner is able to take the series. As Na'Vi just taking Lions into these isolated 1v1s. We might as well be playing Doom match at the moment.
Seems to be more on the same. I'm terrified, like, especially with like VP saying like, yeah, going into tomorrow's game against Na'Vi, like, we're not holding anything back. I'm just worried it's going to be this. I think it's just going to be, we'll play for seeding. Let's just change it up. The meta's going to be a quick adaptation, but Trust Me has found absolutely nothing, which is what you'd expect from a Blade playing at this level.
Oh no, the double dive. Oh, Daredevil, the Spider-Man Daredevil. It lives rent-free in the backline's head. It absolutely can hurt you. As Na'Vi have finally been able to break through the Lion's hold, but QB takes him down. Still, we're looking at frontline, and Na'Vi still have a full presence upon it. Terror with the shotgun might deal the last picks required for Na'Vi to cap. And we bring this silly map to a close.
1, 2, 0.
And a silly series for Na'Vi, which means that they are going into their final matchup tomorrow, 4-0 in their groups. We already knew that they were making playoffs, but it means that Na'Vi versus Virtus Pro tomorrow is going to decide who's top in the group in panache, spectacular fashion, for all of the wrong reasons, potentially.
Hi, Blake. Hello. What an incredible series we just had. Penny, Iron Fist, Blade. As Boxy said, Na'Vi are single-handedly just going to ruin a lot of people's statistics if they don't filter for like only 1 or 2 games played. Because they can't keep getting away with this, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm already, like, I'm glad I don't need to record, like, what's the meta for another month after this, because I'm like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It could genuinely be the meta in a month's time, but here I think it's just Na'Vi, like, just flexing a little bit. Lions struggled, but it's Na'Vi, like, showing what they've always been good at, playing weird heroes to the nth degree.
And we're looking at our MVP here, and surprise, surprise, it is going to be the newest airline, Air Terror, coming on in here, yet not even on a flying character for once. Taxiing, of course, on the trusty dinosaur, but taking to the sky for those final hits, Moxie.
Yeah, I think there's new definition when we say terror can be terrifying. That is, if you're doing your scout check and you're like, okay, Devil Dino's on front line. Wait, no, Devil Dino's not on front line. He's in our back line with a Punisher.
I mean, it almost feels like it's good promo for Brand New Day, to be honest. It's like, hey, perfect, Punisher and Spider-Man causing chaos in New York. Who'd have thought?
We got the Punisher, we got the Spider-Man, we're getting all the Brand New Day heroes. Of course, Devil Dinosaur and Adam Warlock will be appearing as seen in these clips. Excited to see them pop on up. And yeah, as Moxie said, as someone who does, like, I fail often in my games and has to play strategist fairly often, and I am not a stranger to the surprise double dive onto a backline, and it's rough to deal with. But in this case, rough to deal with is just something you can describe Na'Vi as, Moxie.
I mean, it's just the case that when you call DD, it could potentially pertain to Crook, or it could be Rajaro. You have to be so explicit because both of them were just constantly flanking and diving. And there's true strategy behind making these games so chaotic, because it means that teams who are like scrimming for meta strategies just don't know how to deal with the chaos because it's not the formula that they're used to. There's no method, it's full madness, and you just have to think fast and win your separate fights.
Shout out to Kyubi, by the way, who does look like they made it out of that series without going down once, which, considering what they were playing against, is incredibly impressive. So a big shout out to them if that stat is accurate. But overall, we saw Lions, they had some really good moments. Zerx had a huge amount of pressure on. They were able to hold the front line quite effectively. They had the Penny band, which is weird to say that that might have had an impact. But overall, Ryan, this is just Na'Vi showing why they are other world champions in this region. And now everyone's eyes are going to be looking ahead to tomorrow of the Battle of the World Champions, round 2, round 3. They keep fighting each other.
Yeah, and they're going to keep fighting each other until we see the end of Ignite, because it could be the grand finals again at this rate. I mean, compare Na'Vi's group stage to what we saw in their group stage of preseason, where teams were absolutely writing them off as like being one of the main teams behind it, because they lost in groups against Team Heretics, I think, in preseason. And you had people like Fate tweeting, like, why does everybody think we were bad? After they had, like, started to actually get some good results and win against the likes of, like, BP or Heretics, whoever came in their way. Now it's just a totally different look when it comes to the group stages. And now there's another month before we see them play in July for playoffs. So all the more reason to just be a lot more relaxed.
we've got a new character, which we don't know what role it's for, but the fact is, let's go through what role Cyclops could be and how terrifying that is. Cyclops is a Vanguard. Oh no, it's not Rajaro or level 1 Crook. That's not, or onto, trust me, that's terrifying. It could be on Strategist, which means it could be going to Fate, or this person here, level 1 Crook, who we have the interview with. Crook, once again, appearing on the Daredevil, putting on a stellar performance, and then enjoying even more variety with your team this time. What are spirits looking like in the Na'Vi camp right now?
Well, I mean, everyone doubted my Diddy, and my first time showing it was quite horrendous. So I felt like I had to make up for it and actually show my true power on the Daredevil. And I'm happy I was able to show everybody, and now my team even believes in my Diddy, and I'm just super proud of it. But yeah, vibes are good, team mentality is up, and of course now enough trolling, and we're just getting ready for the match against VB.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask about as well, because I don't know if you saw the interview with like Vinzi after VP's like last win, where they were like, they're not holding anything back in tomorrow's game. Like, there's not going to be any. I wouldn't have thought weird like blades being thrown in or a bit of Spider-Man. It feels like because CD can be important, the meta's going to change, that they're going into that game pretty seriously. Would you say the same for you guys, that you're going into that VP win game as like a must win, or are you keeping your cards close to your chest?
Well, matter of fact is that playoffs is going to be played on a new patch, so holding back any secret bans or stuff like that, it's pointless at this point, because new patch will change everything. There's going to be a new hero in the game, which if the new hero is strong, then the whole meta will be put on its head, I would say. So yeah, we're gonna show all our bans, I guess, but it's not a must-win situation. But we'll try our hardest.
I guess going into that matchup as well, where would you rate Virtus.pro currently? Because when we talk to other teams, they say that Virtus.pro have started to improve and look much stronger, but you also have teams like Heretics who remain undefeated. Do you think Virtus.pro are second in EMEA, or do you think Heretics are currently the team closest to you?
I mean, Heretics are actually really good right now. Sometimes, like, they actually manage to spawn camp us in streams from time to time. With VP, we haven't played them in quite a while, so it's hard for me to judge if they're very good. That's why we'll find out tomorrow. We haven't scrimmed them as they're in our group, and that's how it usually goes, right? If you're about to play someone, you don't scrim them beforehand because you want to keep your strategies safe and hit them with some surprises.
Close this out then. It's often that we get the chance to say this at international events, but here domestically, it's always a delight to hear that, with your next opponents being Virtus.pro tomorrow. Do you have any words for them?
No, absolutely not. It's a group stage match. I think everything's chill. Both of us are aware that whoever wins, it like gives you a better bracket in the playoffs, but it's not life-changing whatsoever.
All right, well, we'll let you get back to your team to celebrate yet another win and prepare for your matchup tomorrow.
All right.
Always good to talk to Crook, and you heard him. It's time to take the gloves off. It is still just a group stage match, but we've talked about it. That seeding going into the playoffs can be very important, and he does understand that. And of course, there is the pride, Boxy. There is the excitement of being able to take on what might be your longest running rival.
I mean, there's also the fact that it's on the second to last day of groups, which means that even if you show all of your strategies, teams have got 1 day to be able to try to copy them. So honestly, in terms of scheduling, it fell really nicely into the favor of both of these two teams.
We're going to have a look at the standings after today's games, as we did have a little bit of shifting around, especially in Group B, where Shikigami have finally managed to get themselves a little bit of space moving into that second spot after their win versus Reason, which ties Reason up with Fire Sprays. Both these teams still have some games to play, whereas in Group A, it's about what we've come to expect. 4-0 and 4-0 sitting at the top of the board. but now with a two-way tie in the middle, with Pulsar and Rad being at 1 and 2 after the Lions, with a game in hand, after just having played one more than the others, have dropped down into that 5th spot. Ryan, looking at tomorrow's schedule, this is something that we have all been looking forward to, but this is not just a one-match show.
Yeah, Moxie, we're eating good. Like, we're casting the first two games tomorrow. Like, not only is it Na'Vi versus Virtus Pro for the umpteenth time, but also Pulsar versus Rad. We saw from the standings, like, that's a close one, and it could have big impact on their chances of qualifying for playoffs. But I'd even say that, like, other games, sure, you've got Crownfall with nothing to play for, but Fire Stray is fighting for group supremacy in B, as well as Reason trying to fight up for that stage. It's going to be very impactful end of day of how these teams are going to go, and it's going to be really hard to call.
And Moxie, looking ahead to this, we of course are expecting the Na'Vi VP one to be good. Pulsar and Rad, it's very important for their group stage, but we've got to also look at Crownfall, Reason, and Fire. They are all still potentially at risk of that danger zone.
Yeah, no one wants to be in the hot seat when it comes to not making it into playoffs or potentially having to play through relegation. So pretty much all still on the line for a lot of these teams. I think for Fire as well, there's more on the line given the fact that they were able, well, they took a loss against Reason in their first matchup. So Reason's a little bit more comfortable in their position at the moment.
They both sit at 2 and 2. Crownfall are the only ones who could really be playing spoilers here, as they're sitting at 0 and 4, likely not making it through to playoffs. The maths just ain't there for them. But for Reason, Fire, it's all very important. Heretics would, of course, like to keep their lead at the top of the table to potentially avoid Virtus Pro or Na'Vi. And it's wild to say that you have to avoid Virtus Pro and Na'Vi, that they're in the same group. That's just how good our top of the table is in EMEA, right?
Yeah, it's like Thanos or Ultron. Who do you want to face up against? We'll throw Dr. Doom in there for good measure as well. Like, it's just like, and how important it is, right? Like, that seems to be the thing for Crook, is like the standings do end up mattering. And whilst the meta is going to change, giving yourself the easiest route to a mid-season finals event by going through the upper bracket would be a grand help to any team that is looking to try and cause upset.
Moxie, we saw a lot more heroes than we are used to seeing in terms of some variety today, with a lot of teams now giving up on hiding anything as we approach the end of the games we are playing, at least on this patch. Is there anything else you might be expecting for us to see, or anything you just really like them to bring out?
I mean, tomorrow I think is the most genuine read of the meta we will get this group stage. Like, Na'Vi VP, they've obviously been holding off on strategies, they've been playing off-role compositions so that you just do not know what they're going to roll out onto. I feel like the read of Rocket is likely going to be seeing bans from both of these teams, but Mantis is proving to yet again become a problem when paired with Phoenix, so it's likely that Jean Grey gets targeted in the ban draft as well.
But all of that is to come tomorrow for EMEA, so make sure to tune back in for more games from us. We also have the Americas coming on later, Asia coming on even later than that, / early tomorrow, depending on what time zone you're in. China's also happening on their own channels on Bilibili, so there's so much incredible Marvel Rivals esports for you. Ignite is just getting started. But from myself, Ryan Central, and Got Moxie, thank you all very much for watching. Ignite the battle, and we'll see you all next time.